Chapter 4285. Before she got close, Xia Zhu looked at Gu Yun vigilantly. What do you want to do? Gu Yun handed the bottle to Yu Ying. Our first miss is kind and won't care about Princess Xia Zhu's rudeness. Although Princess Xia Zhu lost this duel, this antidote was given to you by our first Mississippi. Gu Yun slightly raised her chin. Her attitude was very arrogant. Her words made Yu Ying's face as dark as the bottom of a pot. Princess Xia Zhu was even more furious when she heard this. I didn't lose. Gu Yun coldly smiled, the corners of her mouth twitching. Whether or not you lost, your Highness knows very well in your heart. This servant is only following orders to give this antidote to your Highness. If your Highness is not willing to accept First Miss Good Intentions, this servant will report back to First Mississippi. Saying this, she put away the antidote and turned to leave. Wait. Princess Xia Zhu immediately spoke, her expression ugly as she stared at the bottle in Gu Yan's hand. Is this Brother Ming's antidote? Gu Yan's mouth twitched, as if she had already guessed that Princess Xia Zhu would do this. She turned around and said with a smile, yes. Give the antidote to me. Princess Xia Zhu pursed her lips and stretched out her hand. Gu Yan didn't move. She continued with a smile. Your Highness, this is specially given to you by our First Miss out of kindness. Shouldn't your Highness thank First Miss? She deliberately emphasized the words kind and used the honorific Your Highness. It made Xia Zhu's heart feel suffocated. Her expression darkened as she glared at Gu Yan. My precious body is willing to accept her antidote. It is her honor, and you want me to thank her. Don't even think about it. Oh, Gu Yan decisively put the bottle into her sleeve. I'm afraid First Miss doesn't need such an honor. Gu Yan! Princess Xia Zhu's face was livid as she shouted Gu Yan's name. Don't think that you can stand on my head just because you have the First Miss of the Gu residence to support you. If what happened today reaches royal father's ears, do you think the Gu residence will sacrifice a servant girl to protect the relationship between the imperial family and the Gu residence? Gu Yan's expression didn't change. She wasn't moved by Princess Xia Zhu's threat. She knew better than anyone how much Lord doted on eldest Mississippi. Even the dominoes were given to eldest Mississippi. She had eldest young miss to back her up. So, of course, she had nothing to fear. Although they did not spend much time together, Gu Yan was very clear about this. As long as he treated eldest miss sincerely, eldest miss would definitely not let anything happen to her. Even if something really happened, she had nothing to fear. If she could sacrifice herself for the Bone residence, she would not shirk her duty. At this moment, Yi Qing Luo's voice rang out. Gu Yan, let's go. Yes, eldest miss. Gu Yan restrained the thoughts in her eyes and was about to leave. How could Princess Xia Zhu let Gu Yan leave like this? She shouted, Gu Yan, stop. You're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to leave. She shouted in a low voice while giving Yu Ying a meaningful look. Yu Ying's figure flashed and appeared in front of Gu Yan. Gu Yan's eyes turned cold. Move aside. Hand over the antidote. Yu Ying pursed her lips, her face full of vigilance. In terms of strength, she was inferior to Gu Yan. If Gu Yan made a move, she wasn't sure if she could stop Gu Yan. Not waiting for Gu Yan to open her mouth, Yi Qing Luo's serene and elegant voice rang again. Princess Xia Zhu's attitude really makes me unhappy, and I really can't feel. Princess Xia Zhu's urgency for the antidote. Chapter 4286. Since Princess Xia Zhu is not in a hurry, we can talk about the antidote when I am in a better mood. Princess Xia Zhu's pupils constricted. The facial features on his face became distorted with anger. She gritted her teeth, and a cold glint flashed in her eyes. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't bother about her venomous gaze, as she maintained her contented expression. Ren Jiaming's body suddenly twitched even more violently. A thin layer of sweat drenched his robe. His handsome face was filled with pain. Princess Xia Zhu hugged Ren Jiaming's body, her heart aching. She gritted her teeth and said, "What do you want?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. "What do you want in order to give me the antidote?" Princess Xia Zhu gritted her teeth and asked. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes with an innocent look. "Haven't I already given you the antidote? Her Highness refused, didn't she?" Xia Zhu's face darkened, alternating between green and white. Her chest seemed to be filled with endless anger. Apparently, Gu Yan's arrogant words earlier were all under Yi Qing Luo's instructions. In other words, if she didn't lower her head, Yi Qing Luo wouldn't give her the antidote. If Yi Qing Luo was unwilling, she couldn't even think about touching the antidote. Looking at the pale face of her beloved man in her arms, Xia Zhu forcefully closed her eyes and quickly said, "Thank you, eldest miss." With that, her face darkened and she stretched out her hand. "Give me the antidote." Gu Yun was surprised. "Did your Highness thank me just now?" This servant doesn't seem to have heard it. Her Highness' sincerity. Eldest miss can't see it either. Princess Xia Zhu's face darkened even more. Did she have to be humble again? Obviously that was the case. Judging from Gu Yan's attitude, it was as if she was waiting for her to thank her again. Princess Xia Zhu clenched her fists and said word by word, "This princess sincerely thanks First Miss for your help. This princess is very grateful." As soon as she finished speaking, Princess Xia Zhu's face darkened. Between his brows, there was a chilling, killing intent. Gu Yan took a glance at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo nodded her head lightly. Then, with a magnanimous look on her face, she took out the antidote. "Your Highness, there's no need to stand on ceremony. Who asked our First Miss to be so kind?" Xia Zhu's hand pinched her own flesh tightly. She lowered her head in silence. Yu Ying hurriedly took the antidote. Gu Yan raised her chin up high as she turned around and walked towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo calmly looked at Xia Zhu before he left with Gu Yan. Then he threw a palm-sized medicine bag in Xiong Baishan's direction. No one could see clearly where she took out the packet of medicine from, although there was something wrong with Xiong Baishan's eyes. However, as a beast, its instincts were sharp enough to sense that something was approaching. It stretched out its paw. The medicine bag fell into his palm. In his ears, the girl's faint voice sounded. "Your master doesn't care about you, but you still have to care about yourself. Even if you're a magical beast, you're a magical beast with your own thoughts." Just as Xiong Batian was about to throw the medicine bag away, he froze. A low growl came from its throat. However, the person on the other side did not speak again. Instead, he took Gu Yun and left directly. When the crowd saw them, they automatically opened up a path. Xiong Batian put the medicine bag to his nose and sniffed. He couldn't tell what it was. Chapter 4287. Its sharp claws tore the medicine packet. A pile of powder fell into its palm. Without any hesitation, it pressed the powder on its injured eye. The powder entered its eye. The sharp pain made Xiong Batian let out a shrill cry. Following this, the enormous figure turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared before the crowd's eyes. This scene, everyone in the surroundings was stunned. Just now, what medicine packet did Lady Gu of the Gu residence give Xiong Batian? Xiong Batian just pressed it onto its eye? What was going on? Where did Xiong Batian go? It didn't seem like he had returned to the pet space. Could it be that Xiong Batian had betrayed them? That was impossible. Usually, battle pets that had formed a blood contract could not leave their master. As long as their master summoned them, they would return to their master no matter how far away they were. Everyone was filled with shock and confusion. But Princess Xia Zhu didn't seem to notice that her battle pet had left. She stared unblinkingly at the two figures in front of her, who were gradually getting further and further away. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. The surging anger seemed to want to burn away all of her rationality. When everyone saw this, they didn't know what to feel in their hearts. Princess Xia Zhu didn't even care where Xiong went. They were just bystanders. What right did they have to care? The coldness in Princess Xia Zhu's eyes seemed to have frozen the air around her. The killing intent in her eyes seemed to want to devour everyone. Yu Ying was terrified. She had served the princess for many years, but this was the first time she had seen the princess so angry. Her highness was not to be blamed. The people from the Gu residence had indeed gone too far, but they couldn't afford to cause any more trouble in the current situation. Yu Ying squatted down next to Princess Zhu and whispered, "Your Highness, please detoxify the poison in young Master Ren's body first. When we return to the palace, we will explain this to the Emperor." Princess Xia Zhu's hand trembled. He forcefully suppressed the anger that was squeezing in his chest. Yes, Brother Ming's health was the most important. Detoxifying the poison in Brother Ming's body was the most important thing. This vengeance, when she returned to the palace, she would ask her father to avenge her. Princess Xia Zhu took the medicine bottle and opened it. It was another indescribable smell. The smell was even more unpleasant than the liquid that Princess Xia Zhu had drunk previously. Xia Zhu was completely unable to describe what kind of smell this was. Her face instantly turned ashen. Did that bitch do it on purpose? What antidote could be so smelly? She was stinky, and so was Ren Jianming. If it wasn't intentional, then her name, Gong Xiazhu, would be written upside down. Yu Ying's expression was also very complicated. However, looking at her own princess, she still advised in a low voice, since she dared to take out the antidote in front of everyone. This antidote must be real. Let's detoxify the antidote first. Young Master Ren looks like he can't hold on much longer. Hearing the last sentence, Princess Xia Zhu gritted her teeth and poured the antidote into Ren Jianming's mouth. An indescribable stench overflowed from Ren Jianming's mouth. The entire street was filled with an unpleasant stench. The onlookers couldn't help but cover their mouths and noses. After taking the antidote, Ren Jianming's body finally stopped twitching. His tightly knitted eyebrows also gradually relaxed. Ugh! The piercing pain in Ren Jianming's body finally stopped. Chapter 4288. He was suffocated by the stench, and it was extremely difficult for him to breathe. He couldn't bear it any longer as he suddenly opened his eyes. Brother Ming. After feeding him the antidote, Xia Zhu kept staring at Ren Jianming intently. The minute she saw Ren Jianming's eyes open, Xia Zhu pounced on his chest with an agitated expression. But the minute he opened his mouth was filled with a rotten stench, almost making Ren Jianming faint from the choking. Unfortunately, the owner of that stench didn't have any self-awareness, seeing that he didn't speak for a long time. Instead, she leaned in closer. In his mouth, the stench of various feces and rotting corpses became even more intense. Green veins popped out on Ren Jianming's forehead as he raised his hand and pushed Xia Zhu away. Xia Zhu hadn't reacted in time when she was pushed away by an extremely strong force. Her body was unstable as she fell onto the ground in a disheveled state. She sat on the ground in a daze as she looked at Ren Jianming in disbelief. Brother Ming, why did he suddenly push her? Didn't he know how much she had suffered because of him? Ren Jianming didn't feel that there was anything wrong with his own actions. He speedily stood up, and as he tidied up his messy robe, he swept his gaze around the surroundings. After he didn't discover the person whom he wanted to see, he then turned his gaze towards Xia Zhu. Where is she? That she was naturally referring to Yiqing Luo. Xia Zhu's heart was throbbing in pain. She met Ren Jianming's eyes without saying a word. Ren Jianming's brows creased tightly as he repeated, "I'm asking you, where is she?" This sentence, his tone became heavier. On his face, there was an obvious impatience. The man's attitude completely made Xia Zhu's tensed-up emotions collapse. Her eyes were scarlet red as she howled in a sobbing tone. "Where is she? Where is she?" "Brother Ming, do you only know how to ask this one sentence? I'm telling you, she's gone. Left without any hesitation. She doesn't care whether you're dead or alive. She's such a vicious woman. What's there for you to care about? You saved her, but she poisoned you. She made you suffer so much. Why are you still thinking about her? Do you know? In order to save you, I even threw away my dignity as a princess. If it weren't for me, the poison in your body wouldn't have been cured at all." Xia Zhu roared hysterically. As he roared, his voice choked with sobs, and tears covered his entire face. She was hysterical. Her accusation. This caused the man's face to darken. Xia Zhu thought that he had listened to her words. However, in the next instant, the man's sullen shout completely shattered all of Xia Zhu's dreams. "Who asked you to detoxify me? I was poisoned on purpose to get close to her." Ren Jiaming pointed at Xia Zhu and scolded angrily. Then he didn't even look at Xia Zhu. With a leap, he had already disappeared in front of everyone. Princess Xia Zhu was left sitting on the ground in a daze. He was so stiff that he couldn't move. Yu Ying's heart ached when she saw this. She knelt down beside Xia Zhu and said, "Your Highness, Yu Ying, tell me, don't you think this princess is really like a joke?" Xia Zhu asked in a hoarse voice. For Ren Jiaming, she could even throw away her dignity. She could bow down to Yi Qing Luo. But in the end, not only did Ren Jiaming not give her a word of concern, instead he blamed her for being a busybody. Her busybody? If it wasn't for the fact that she loved him so much, if it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't bear to see him getting hurt. Chapter 4289. Carrying Qi Yan, Yi Qing Luo, who was on her way back to the Bone residence, suddenly sneezed. Gu Yun asked with concern, "Has eldest miss caught a cold?" "I'm fine." Yi Qing Luo touched her neck. This feeling was probably someone talking bad about her behind her back. Gu Yun pursed her lips and said worriedly, "Eldest miss, aren't you worried that Princess Xia Zhu will inform the emperor about this?" Even though he was far away from the crowd, the expression on Yi Qing Luo's face was still that carefree expression. "Isn't this inevitable?" Yi Qing Luo tilted her head and took a look at Gu Yun. Based on her character, she would definitely ask that emperor to seek revenge for her. Moreover, even if she doesn't complain, the emperor will know about this matter. So what is there to worry about? She and Princess Xia Zhu's quarrel could be said to have caused a great commotion. More than half of the street had been destroyed. It even crushed 2 profound practitioners to death. How could the emperor not know about it? Hearing this, Gu Yun's expression changed. If the emperor wants to intervene, Bone Lord isn't in the mansion. This matter might be very troublesome. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. This emperor, what is his identity? As a newcomer, Yi Qing Luo didn't know the rules of the Heaven Realm. He also did not know what the position of the emperor that Gu Yun spoke of was in the Heaven Realm. After all, the rules of every realm were different. The branch offices were also different. For example, the Nirvana realm had 4 continents and 4 kings, but they were restricted by the 4 great sections. For example, the Earth domain had 3 main cities and the Linglong Palace. Apart from the 3 main cities' city lords and the Linglong Palace's palace lord, there was also an earthly sovereign who was in charge of the entire Earth domain. Then, what was the position of the emperor of the Heaven Realm? Gu Yun looked at Yi Qing Luo strangely, as though she didn't understand why Yi Qing Luo would ask this question. However, he still suppressed the curiosity in his heart and replied, "The emperor is the emperor of the Heaven Realm. The Gong clan of the royal family can be said to be the most respected people in our Heaven Realm." Yi Qing Luo. In other words, Sky. Emperor? At first, she had thought that the emperor Gu Yun was talking about he was probably referring to a city, lord of an ancient city in the Heaven Realm. This was equivalent to the city lords of Shadowless City, without Yen City, and without Embroiling City in the Earth domain. Unexpectedly, this Emperor of the Heaven Realm, he was referring to the Emperor of the entire Heaven Realm. It was similar to the position of the Earth King in the Earth Realm. Yi Qing Luo indicated that she was trembling, bowing down to the big shots. However, eldest miss need not worry. Bone Lord's power is definitely not inferior to the Emperor's. Even if the Emperor wants to touch you, he wouldn't dare to do so out of respect for Bone Lord. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo didn't say a word, Gu Yun immediately appeased her. Moreover, Bone Lord had passed the bone token to eldest young Mississippi. Eldest young miss has the entire Gu residence as her backing, so the Emperor wouldn't dare to touch you. The coming days will be tough. Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue. It would indeed be tough. She was brought to the Heaven Realm by the barbaric Bloodbone King. Her identity had spread throughout the Heaven Realm, but no one had ever seen her. Just like that, she snatched away the title of the #1 woman that Gong Shizhu fancied the most, and attracted the interest of all the profound practitioners. Then, as soon as he appeared, he ruthlessly slapped Gong Shizhu's face. This was also indirectly slapping the royal family in the face. No matter what, the Emperor wanted to regain his face. He would definitely take action. In addition to the matter of the death of 2 cultivators, Gong Shizhu would probably push half of the responsibility to her. Chapter 40-290. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she stretched out her hand and placed it on Gu Yun's shoulder. Even if he's not around, isn't there still me? Are you worried that I can't protect you? Gu Yun hurriedly shook her head. Eldest Miss was personally chosen by Bone Lord. This servant naturally believes in Eldest Mississippi. Your expression doesn't look like you believe me. Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at her, her eyes filled with craftiness. Now you know how to be afraid? When you were facing the princess just now, you were quite imposing. Gu Yan's face suddenly turned red. This servant was just... I'm not blaming you. Yi Qing Luo patted her on the shoulder. You've done very well. I like your arrogance, very much like my style. Well done. Continue to work hard. Gu Yan's face turned even redder. To be my person, you must maintain today's imposing manner. Do you understand? Yi Qing Luo replied. Gu Yun nodded. This servant will remember. Her voice was soft. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's gaze, there was a different emotion. This young miss, she was really different from the rich young ladies she had seen before. In front of Yi Qing Luo, she could feel it. Yi Qing Luo didn't treat her as a servant, a person to dispatch. Instead, he treated her as one of his own, as a friend. Thinking of this, Gu Yan's heart softened a little. Oh, right, Gu Yan. Yi Qing Luo let go of Gu Yun and continued walking forward as she asked, towards the matters of the 4 great heavenly families. Do you have any understanding? When Gu Yun heard this, she immediately replied, the position of the 4 great Tian families in the Heaven Realm is on par with the Emperor. Both sides maintain a superficial balance. How is the relationship between the 4 great sky families? Yi Qing Luo understood that these 4 great sky families were similar to the 4 great sects when she was in Nirvana Realm. The 4 great Tian families have always supported each other. There has never been any struggle for power or any conflict of interest. Gu Yin suddenly paused. She pondered for a moment, then suppressed her voice and quietly said, However, according to the information that the Gu residence has arranged outside, this servant has heard that the 4 great families have been in constant internal strife recently. It seems that some decision has attracted the disapproval of a few families. Yi Qing Luo didn't believe that there would be any mutual support between the large families. Can live in peace. It was just that he hadn't really harmed his own interests yet. The disputes that followed were endless. It was very likely that there was a great disparity in benefits, which led to internal strife. Therefore, there was no such thing as an absolutely stable partnership. The most important thing was whether or not he could achieve the benefits he wanted. Eldest Miss, You don't have to worry about the Rin family. Even though the Rin family's second young master has outstanding talent and is the Rin family's favorite, the Rin family will not go to the extent of becoming enemies with the Gu residents for the sake of the Rin family's second young master. Gu Yun's words were filled with brainless confidence towards Gu Jun. Yi Qing Luo really wanted to know, just what kind of position did the Blood-Bone Barbarian King and the Bone Mansion occupy in the Heaven Realm? Why did Gu Yun's words sound like the most powerful people in the entire Heaven Realm were all afraid of the Bone Mansion? The most powerful forces in the entire Heaven Realm were all afraid of the Bone Mansion. The entire Heaven Realm was afraid of the Bone Mansion. Yi Qing Luo. All right, in any case, the Bone Mansion was the most awesome existence. It was better to return to the Bone residence and sort out the matters of the Heaven Realm first. She had to think of a way to undo the seal placed in her body by the barbaric Blood-Bone King. She needed to recover her strength. He had to get in touch with Ah Xian as soon as possible. Chapter 4291. Furthermore, in this Heaven Realm where experts ran amok, there were experts everywhere. If she didn't have profound energy to protect her, she had to bear the title of the young miss of the Gu residence. There were many people who wanted her dead. She couldn't always hide behind others and rely on their protection. Relying on others, how could he be more reliable than relying on himself? After returning to the Bone residence, the first thing Yi Qing Luo did was to make a list and passed it to Gu Yun. Gu Yun glanced over. There were all kinds of miscellaneous herbs that didn't seem to be precious. Since she was young, Gu Yun had also received basic medical knowledge. But when he looked at the list, he saw the rows of names of the herbs. Gu Yun really couldn't tell what effect these herbs had when combined together. However, she didn't ask any further. He immediately went to arrange this matter. When Gu Yun returned, Yi Qing Luo immediately asked Gu Yun to rummage through the Gu residence's warehouse to see if there were any better quality pill furnaces. Gu Yun couldn't hold back her curiosity. Young miss wants to refine pills. Yi Qing Luo nodded her head. I don't have a lot of medicinal pills on me, so I need to prepare some more in case of emergencies. All the elixirs that she had refined were stored in the profound phoenix ring. The Blood-Bone Barbarian King should also know about the connection between the Netherworld Phoenix Ring and the Netherworld Dragon Ring. She could not establish any connection with the Phoenix Ring, not to mention taking things out of the profound Phoenix Ring. The poison that she poisoned Gong Shizhu and Rin jamming on the street just now was from the space pocket that she kept on her a long time ago. Normally, he had the profound Phoenix Ring and the azure dew bracelet to move around. She didn't need a dimensional pocket. The only space pocket she had on her was something that those youngsters in the World Group had forced her to bring along. She had always carried it with her and had never opened it to see what was inside. Unexpectedly, in other words, this space pocket let her show off for the first time in this Heaven Realm where experts were as numerous as the clouds. She should thank the brother who forced her to carry the space pocket with her. However, after all, the space in the interspatial pocket wasn't much. It was filled with all sorts of poisons, but most of it was medicine for external and internal injuries. Yi Qing Luo had no profound energy now. The only thing that could protect him was poison. He had to refine a higher quality, colorless, and odorless poison himself. After all, as the young miss of the Gu residence, the news of her using poison today would spread throughout the entire Heaven Realm. Other people would definitely be on their guard when interacting with her. The poison in the space pocket was not very useful. Gu Yun quickly went to make arrangements. In the following days, Yi Qing Luo squatted in the pill refining room that Gu Yun had specially arranged for her, refining various kinds of poisons. She did not have profound energy, but she had scarlet flame. Qi Yen, who had recovered a third of his beast power, opened his mouth and spat out the flame. Using it to refine pills was much better than using her profound strength to refine pills. On top of that, Gu Yun had arranged for her to purchase the best medicinal ingredients and pill furnaces. The refining process was rather smooth. 5 days later, Yi Qing Luo walked out from the pill refining room with an ashen face. Gu Yin, who was always guarding the door, was actually not there. Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept across the surroundings. He could vaguely sense that there were 2 people in the dark. It was probably Gu Yi and Gu San. Ever since that day on the streets when she kept Gu Yi's dark guard captain's wooden token, these 2 people were still abiding by Bloodbone Barbaric King's orders, secretly guarding her, but in the dark. Chapter 4292. Previously, when the 2 of them were hiding in the dark, she wouldn't be able to find out at all. Now, even though she was someone without any profound energy, she could still faintly sense their aura. If they didn't do it on purpose, she didn't believe it. But Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about those 2. Just as Zhang Xian was about to return to his room to tidy himself up, a voice suddenly rang out. A clamor came from the front. Following that, about 5 to 6 people walked over in unison. The one walking at the front had a solemn expression and was talking to the people behind him in a righteous manner. However, it couldn't stop those people from advancing. Among those few people, Yi Qing Luo spotted a familiar figure, Gong Shizhu. The 5 people behind him were the awe-inspiring middle-aged man and the white-haired old man. Seeing that Gong Shizhu was among them, the few of them charged forward aggressively. Yi Qing Luo also knew that they came with ill intentions. Their pace was extremely fast. He saw Yi Qing Luo standing in front. Gu Yan's expression changed slightly as she said something to those few people and hastened her footsteps towards Yi Qing Luo. Eldest young miss, what's the matter? Yi Qing Luo raised her chin towards those people behind her. Gu Yunma pursed her lips. It's still because of Princess Yaju. She quickly told him what had happened in the past few days in a concise and comprehensive manner. It was probably she had been concocting pills for a few days. Gong Shizhu had been causing trouble all this time. Using her status as a princess, she forcefully pushed the blame of the cultivator who was crushed to death by Xiong Batian to Yi Qing Luo. Then, in front of the emperor, she tearfully complained about her grievances and the face she had lost that day. In addition, there were rumors among the people. The emperor was furious. Then he thoroughly investigated the matter. It was discovered that the second young master of the Gu clan had also been humiliated by the young miss of the Gu clan. Then he joined forces with the Rin family. As a result, a royal family, 2 clans with profound practitioner forces that had died, and the Rin family were all clamoring for the young lady of the Gu family to give them an explanation. But Yi Qing Luo had been refining pills these few days. He refused to meet her at the door. The entire Gu residence would not be able to give them any explanation. Wasn't this looking down on the imperial power? Wasn't this looking down on the other forces? Everyone was enraged. Under Gong Xiaozhu's instigation, he was valiant and high-spirited, directly charging in with Gong Shizhu. Following that was what Yi Qing Luo was looking at right now. After Yi Qing Luo heard this, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. These people spoke in a dignified manner. What kind of explanation did they want? To put it bluntly, it was just that the imperial family found it hard to accept the Gu Mansion's actions in the Heaven Realm. Furthermore, the other factions were more or less respectful and resentful towards the Bone Mansion. This time, he was just using it as a pretext to make a fuss. His main purpose was to suppress the Bone Residence's prestige, while Bone Lord was not around. Most importantly, he wanted to investigate the background of the young miss of the Bone Residence. As soon as Gu Yin finished speaking, a few people walked over. At the very front, Gong Xiaozhu's eyes were filled with viciousness. Her lips curled as she sneered. First young miss of the Gu clan, long time no see. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she didn't bother about her. Instead, she swept a glance at the few of them. Did this group of people run over to the Gu residence to create trouble? Gong Shizhu's expression sunk as a sliver of embarrassment flashed past her eyes. That old man standing behind Gong Shizhu slowly opened his mouth. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence. Eldest young miss should be clear of our motive for coming here. Chapter 40-93. The old man pulled a long face and tried to suppress his anger. A few days ago, the young lady and her Royal Highness's battled pet caused the deaths of our young masters. He paused, his voice suddenly rising. Don't tell me. Eldest miss shouldn't give us an explanation? When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her expression didn't have the slightest change, as she shot him a glance with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Your young master's death. What has it got to do with me? Someone from your family died, and you're asking me for an explanation? Am I your father? No, am I your mother? His words were like a heavy slap to the old man's face. The old man's face immediately flushed red. His face was ashen. Is this the upbringing of the Gu residents? Upbringing is also for people. Yi Qing Luo disagreed. Do you think you can be considered as human? Why should she be nice to people who came to find trouble with her? Would they stop looking for trouble if he gave them a good attitude? Yi Qing Luo's words directly scolded those few people on the opposite side. The few of them looked at each other with extremely ugly expressions. They had heard that the young miss of the Gu residence had a temper that was not to be trifled with. Moreover, she was extremely arrogant and despotic. After seeing the man, he was even better than the rumors. First young miss of the Gu clan. Gong Xia Zhu took a step forward as she looked at Yi Qing Luo with a venomous gaze. The reason why we're here today is merely to seek an explanation for the matter that day. Eldest young miss is so overbearing. Could it be that you have a guilty conscience? Seeing Yi Qing Luo, the hatred in her heart surged up. The humiliation she had suffered in Yi Qing Luo's hands that day. She wanted to make Yi Qing Luo pay back bit by bit. Yi Qing Luo glanced at her disapprovingly as her smile was filled with ridicule. What am I guilty of? As for what happened that day, the onlookers will naturally know. What explanation do I need to give you? She looked at the others as if she was looking at an idiot. With just a few words, you managed to incite the representatives of the clan to come to the Bone residence to demand an explanation. Are you all stupid? The people who were treated like fools. Why was this girl so happy to criticize the heavens and the earth? They naturally knew what had happened that day. Since they would represent the clan and follow Gong Shizhu to the Gu residence, it was impossible for them to do so. Naturally, it was the will of the family. His goal wasn't just for what had happened that day. However, when it came from the mouth of the first miss of the Gu residence, it was as if the first miss of the Gu residence. Did that make them fools who could be incited at will? Eldest young miss, since the lords have come, they have naturally investigated thoroughly. You still want to quibble? Gong Shizhu sneered. Just the fact that you poison me and Brother Ming is enough for you to pay with your life. He mentioned the word poison. The old man's face darkened even more. Even his eyes revealed a ferocious look that could not be ignored. The others also stared furiously at Yi Qing Luo. Shrouded by several pairs of gloomy eyes, the young girl's expression didn't change. Instead, her pink lips curled into a mocking smile. Pay with my life. Yi Qing Luo sneered. Then why don't you try? I also want to see how you are going to take my life. Gong Shizhu clenched her fists so tightly that her fingertips turned slightly white. Bone Lord is not in the heaven realm. How long do you think you can be arrogant for? Chapter 40-94. Who are you calling flustered and exasperated? Gong Xia Zhu couldn't control her own emotions as her fingernails almost broke her palms. Her venomous eyes stared deadly at Yi Qing Luo. The unwillingness in her heart spread throughout her chest. Obviously, the young lady was in a sorry state. Her face was covered in dust. On that face there were patches of black marks which looked extremely comical. The clothes on her were in a mess. Her skirt was stained with dust and charcoal. She looked like a refugee who escaped from the famine. But why? when the young lady smiled and raised her head. Even she felt pressured by that awe-inspiring and oppressive aura. Gong Xia, Zhu wasn't willing to admit it, but she had to admit it. The eldest young miss of the Gu residence was born to stand on a high position. Thinking of this, she clenched her fists tightly and tightened her grip. I have nothing to say to you. Yi Qing Luo knocked on her sore arm as her entire body was sticky and extremely uncomfortable. Gu Yin, send the guests off. Wasting time with these people. Why not go to the hot spring room to tidy herself up? Eldest young miss. The few of them immediately walked past Gu Yin and stood in a row in front of Yi Qing Luo. Eldest young miss, Bone Lord is not in the residence now, so you are the master of the Gu residence. Don't you feel that your current actions are bringing shame to the Gu residence? Yi Qing Luo's gaze was fixed on the person who spoke. It was a middle-aged man who stood on the right side of Gong Xiazhu. Looking at his dressing and temperament, he should be someone from some family who was in charge of some small places. As a representative, he was sent to test her bottom line. He could be considered as cannon fodder. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with a teasing smile. Are you lecturing me? Bringing shame to the Gu residence? She wanted to play with the Gu residence till it was ruined, all right? Why would she be afraid of the Gu residence's reputation? The middle-aged man was questioned by Yi Qing Luo in a cold tone as his heart trembled as he stuttered. No, I don't dare. I just saw that eldest young miss is young and arrogant, So I reminded eldest young Mississippi. Yi Qing Luo sneered. You said it yourself. I am the current master of the Gu residence. I can do whatever I want, and it has nothing to do with you. If you don't like my way of doing things, then scram from the Gu residence. You. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and raised his hand to point at Yi Qing Luo. But as soon as he raised his hand, he gritted his teeth and put it down. You're simply unreasonable. This was no longer a problem that could be explained with the word arrogance. This girl was extremely hostile to all of them. As long as he opened his mouth, he would be unable to defend himself. Gu Yin, who was standing by Yi Qing Luo's side, was stunned by this valiant Yi Qing Luo. After getting along with each other for some time, Gu Yin also knew that Yi Qing Luo wasn't such a flamboyant person. There must be a reason why she was so rude and unforgiving in her words. Gu Yin didn't show any abnormalities either. Gong Xiazhu's red lips were tightly pursed into a straight line as she said, word by word, Eldest young Mrs. Guilty, look is rather laughable. Are you that afraid that we will ask about what happened that day? Eldest young miss kept on changing the topic, showing an impatient attitude to talk to us. Is it because you don't dare to talk to us? The few of them's expressions changed slightly as the way they looked at Yi Qing Luo had a subtle change. Chapter 4295. The Gong Xia Zhu they met a few days ago didn't seem to have any brains. The current Gong Xia Zhu actually had a brain. She even knew how to use such a method to create advantageous conditions for herself. If she continued to go against the heavens and earth, refusing to talk to them, this would then prove Gong Xia Zhu's words. If she compromised and was willing to have a good talk, Gong Xia Zhu's motive would be achieved. So no matter if she agreed or not to talk to them, to Gong Xia Zhu, this was 100 benefits and no harm at all. Yub, what are you doing? Gong Xia Zhu, who was stared at by Yi Qing Luo's naked gaze, felt uncomfortable as her brows creased tightly as she subconsciously raised her hand to block her chest. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was simply too naked and scorching hot, as though it was glued onto her body. Through her robe, she saw her body, being stared at by a lady with such a gaze. Gong Xia Zhu felt that it was very strange. Yi Qing Luo suddenly grinned as she revealed an evil smile. Since Princess has already said so, looks like we have no choice but to talk. Her gaze swept across as she looked at Gu Yin. Prepare the tea. Let's take a look at what they want to discuss with me by creating such a big scene. Gu Yun hesitated as she looked at those few people and then at her own eldest Mississippi. In the end, she bowed and went to prepare the tea and snacks. Yi Qing Luo's disheveled appearance was covered in dirt as she walked towards the meeting hall in the other direction. The few of them looked at each other again. Immediately after, they started walking at the same time as they followed behind Yi Qing Luo. During this period of time, Yi Qing Luo had memorized the geographical location of the Gu residence in her mind. She accurately found the meeting hall as she pushed the door and walked in. There was a solemn and cold atmosphere in the meeting hall. It should have not been used for a long time, but every day there would be servants coming in to clean up. Yi Qing Luo sat down directly. Before my patience runs out, quickly say what you want to talk about. The few of them hesitated for a moment. They started to find chairs to sit down. The few middle-aged men's gazes looked towards the elderly man. Apparently, they were following the elderly man's lead. The elderly man's face, which was filled with wrinkles, was filled with seriousness and pretentiousness. His brows were tightly knitted into a bundle as his penetrating gaze fell onto Yi Qing Luo without blinking. Since eldest miss is willing to talk, I won't beat around the bush, the old man said. He knew that if he beat around the bush, the girl would probably make things even more complicated. Perhaps it was because, after a round of insults, nothing could be heard. The elder said bluntly, "Shouldn't you explain to the Rin family why you poisoned the second young master of the Rin family?" This old man was indeed the representative of the Ren clan. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she propped up her chin. "Don't you know that your second young master unwillingly got poisoned?" Naturally, she could tell. The cause of Ren Jiaming's poisoning, in order to get close to her, he didn't hesitate to poison himself and suffer pain. So before Yi Qing Luo left, she specially passed the antidote to Ren Jiaming. She didn't want to have any other relationship with Ren Jiaming. In exchange for a bottle of antidote, Gong Xiazhu would lower her head. But he had to admit, this Ren Jiaming's willpower was rather strong. That kind of inhuman torture, he could even withstand it. Of course, Yi Qing Luo had never felt that the reason why Ren Jiaming did this was because he liked her and admired her. Hence he tried ways and means to get close to her. There was a motive behind this. Chapter 4296. The elderly man was choked by Yi Qing Luo's words, as his face flushed red again. "You lass, you really have no sense of shame at all." Yi Qing Luo propped her chin as she put on an innocent look. "How am I not ashamed?" The elderly man frowned as he knew that in terms of eloquence he would probably be angered to death by her as he continued. "Second young master is our Rin family's glory. Eldest young miss poisoned him without any explanation. Isn't that unreasonable?" Gong Xiazhu, who had been keeping silent, suddenly opened her mouth. "Since you said that it was Brother Ming who willingly allowed you to poison him, then you shouldn't have done it in such a vicious manner. Do you know how much pain Brother Ming was in at that time? Brother Ming had never suffered any pain since he was young. It's you who made Brother Ming twitch on the ground in pain. Seeing Brother Ming in this state, how do you expect those onlookers to think of Brother Ming and the Rin family?" Her complaints were filled with indignation. In an instant, it made the elderly man's expression stiffen as the gaze he shot at Yi Qing Luo turned even colder. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but clicked her tongue. When he looked at Gong Xiazhu, there was a deeper meaning in his eyes. This Gong Xiazhu was really different now. Even these sounded as though she was feeling injustice for Ren Jiaming, feeling indignant and angry for him. In actual fact, she was indirectly telling the Rin family's elderly that the poison that Ren Jiaming was inflicted with wasn't a small poison. Bearing this in mind, she dragged the Rin family down, saying that it was this lady who caused the Rin family to lose their face. Based on Gong Xiazhu's intelligence, she actually knew how to say these words? Could it be that she had underestimated Gong Xiazhu? At such a young age, her heart is already so vicious. It makes me suspect that eldest young miss is trying to take the opportunity to poison Ren family's second young master. The other middle-aged man suddenly stood up at this moment, as he used a suspicious gaze to look at Yi Qing Luo, guessing, "Just like how you poisoned the princess previously, you're trying to take the opportunity to claim the lives of the princess and Ren family's second young master." Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes as she spoke impolitely. "If I wanted to poison them to death, the both of them wouldn't be alive now. If you poison them, the entire heaven realm will not tolerate you. You were afraid, so you panicked. In the end, you had no choice but to hand over the antidote." The middle-aged man said again. Yi Qing Luo was tickled by him. "Your imagination ability, even if you were to write a script, no one would be willing to accept it. There's no logic at all." "Enough." The old man's brows furrowed even more tightly as he sternly rebuked. The middle-aged man immediately fell silent and shrunk his neck. The elderly pursed his lips tightly as he looked at Yi Qing Luo coldly. "Eldest young miss, since we've taken the initiative to come here, it's to settle this matter. We don't want to argue with eldest young Mississippi." As he spoke, his expression became increasingly gloomy. It was as if a layer of dark clouds had covered the sky. "Regardless of the reason for the poisoning, First Miss has indeed poisoned him and almost killed the second young master." The elderly looked at the rest of the middle-aged men. "The other two young masters who were crushed to death by Xiong Batian also died in the battle between you and Princess Yaju. So the two young masters' deaths are definitely related to you. No matter what, eldest young miss should at least give us an explanation for this." When the old man asked his last question, the old man's eyes widened. In the air, an invisible pressure started to spread. Chapter 4297. The elderly and the rest naturally knew that Yi Qing Luo didn't have any profound energy on her. Under the pressure of this pressure, without any profound energy to protect her profound heart jade, an ordinary person was not able to withstand this kind of suppression. He intentionally released this kind of suppression. How would Yi Qing Luo not know what the elderly was planning? It was merely because Gu Yun wasn't around now. No one could protect her. When the oppressive aura came crashing down, Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as her finger pointed forward gently. A dazzling red glow spread in the air like a flame. Swish! Directly burning in the air. Gong Xiazhu and the rest were shocked. That dazzling red glow bared its fangs and brandished its claws, following the fluctuation in the air as it attacked towards the elderly's direction. The elderly casually flicked his sleeves as he split that red glow apart. The middle-aged man who was sitting beside him stood up abruptly as he cried out in shock. This is real fire!" The elderly casually struck that red glow onto the middle-aged man's body. Instantly the man's sleeves were ignited. The man was so frightened that he immediately fell onto the ground and rolled on the ground before he extinguished the flame. The elderly and the other middle-aged men's expressions instantly turned complicated and grave. They took a look at Yi Qing Luo from time to time, then looking at the middle-aged man who was sprawled on the ground with half of his arm obviously burnt. That was actually a real flame? They thought that it was just the fluctuation of profound qi. Wait a minute. Wasn't the eldest young miss of the Gu residence a waste? There wasn't any fluctuation of profound qi on her. Why, oh, could it actually resist the imposing aura that he released? The elderly's expression sunk as his face was filled with suspicion and probing. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she took out a blazing red feather fan from somewhere and placed it under her chin, while the other hand was lazily raised towards a certain direction. The slender, white, jade-like lotus root seemed to be plated with a thin layer of white velvet light. She only raised it for a few breaths. Everyone saw a ball of red appearing in their line of sight. That was a red bird the size of 2 palms. The phoenix feathers, which were overflowing with brilliant colors, were sparkling with a dazzling radiance. When it extended its wings, it was like a rolling flame. It was Yi Qing Luo's battle pet, which could speak human language. Gong Xiaozhu's eyes immediately lit up. His eyes were fixed on Qi Yan. His eyes were filled with greed. It had only been a few days since they last met. This red bird had already changed into another form. Where was the bird that Zhang Xian had seen previously, the one that was called Trash? This battle pet, not only did he speak the human language, he even defeated her god-tier combat bear beast. She had to get this bird. Gong Shizhu clenched her fists and her eyes flickered. He didn't even try to hide his gaze. Yi Qing Luo casually glanced at him, and her lips couldn't help but curled into a ridiculing arc. Gong Shizhu didn't feel that there was anything wrong with her greed for Qi Yan. A powerful battle pet deserved a powerful master. The first miss of the Gu residence was merely proficient in using poison. But after all, he was just trash without any profound energy. What are you looking at? Look at your bird grandpa with this kind of eyes again. Be careful that I peck your eyes blind. Qi Yan glanced at Gong Shizhu disdainfully. The minute he opened his mouth, whatever noble elegance disappeared. Gong Xiaozhu was frightened by Qi Yan's vicious gaze as she shrunk her neck. But the desire for Qi Yan in her heart grew even more. Qi Yan flapped his tail and fell into Yi Qing Luo's palm. Chapter 4298. Yi Qing Luo's jade-like fingers gently caressed Qi Yan's body. The jade-like skin blended with that raging flame. Extremely compatible. The elderly's heart was slightly shocked, but he didn't show any expression on his face. Just now, that force which blocked the pressure he released came from that battle pet? Naturally, the old man had heard about the battle pet from Gong Shizhu, but he had not expected that battle pet to be so powerful. Yes, powerful. No wonder eldest young miss of the Gu residence was so fearless. Why, still planning to stand in the dark and watch the show? Suddenly, a young lady's lazy voice rang in the main hall. Everyone's gazes fell onto the young lady in unison. They didn't understand the meaning of the young lady's words. The young lady's beautiful pink lips curled into an extremely faint, cold arc. Her half-squinted eyes seemed to be plated with a piece of elegant afterglow. What's the use of the Gu residence nurturing you two trash? There's already someone looking for trouble with your master, and you're still hiding in the corner. What kind of turtle are you? The young lady's voice was clear and pleasant to the ears, but the words she said were bone-chilling. The corners of his mouth were clearly curved into a smile, but between her brows there was a chill that made one's spine go cold. When the elderly saw this, the expression on his face turned solemn. The gaze he used to look at Yi Qing Luo was filled with probing. The others didn't understand what Yi Qing Luo was talking about, but they inexplicably heard that she was scolding the people from the Gu residence. This young lady was probably too irritable, scolding her own people. The few of them were looking around, trying to see who was the person Yi Qing Luo was talking about. Moments later, under the young lady's smiling yet not smiling gaze, two figures, one tall and one short, jumped down from the roof. The two of them were dressed in black attire. They could tell that they were the secret guards who were hiding in the dark. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence was scolding these two secret guards. Was she trying to change the topic by criticizing the two secret guards in front of them, finally willing to come out? Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose as she looked at the two of them with a smile, yet not a smile. Gu Sanxiu's beautiful face twisted. She clenched her teeth and said angrily, "You trash, who are you calling trash? Also, don't think that you can call yourself the master of the Gu clan just because you're the young miss of the Gu clan. In my eyes, only Lord Bone Lord is the real master." Gu San. Hearing Gu San's words, Gu San's face sank, and he immediately shouted to stop Gu San. He stretched out his hand and pulled out a bone 3. However, he was too slow. The middle-aged men sitting beside him all had strange expressions on their faces after hearing Gu San's words. Were these really the secret guards of the Gu residence? As a hidden guard, he actually dared to talk back to the master of the Gu residence? He even dared to insult the master of the Bone Mansion? They all had different expressions on their faces, and their eyeballs were rolling nonstop. Could it be the first young miss of the Gu clan was actually not favored in the Gu clan? So, even the hidden guards of the Gu residence could suppress her? This thought immediately caused a certain emotion to surge in the hearts of the few of them. His vision kept shifting between Yiqing Luo and those two secret guards. Facing such a gaze, Yiqing Luo didn't seem to mind, as her expression was extremely indifferent. After hearing Gu San's words, there wasn't any change in her expression. She tilted her head as her expression was languid. Really? In this way, you will acknowledge him as your master, right? Chapter 40, 299. Towards Yiqing Luo, Gu San was filled with unwillingness ever since he first met her. Especially when Bone Lord used the excuse of eldest young miss is a lady, and you are the only lady among the secret guards, so you can take good care of her, as an excuse to stay by Yiqing Luo's side. She was a secret guard who risked his life. A secret guard who risked his life for Bone Lord. To protect a frail lady who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken? And a frail lady who appeared out of nowhere? Thinking of this, the disdain on Gu San's face deepened. Who do you think you are, trying in vain to usurp Bone Lord's position? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept and fixed onto Gu Yi. You think so too? Gu Yi was stunned, as he had not expected Yiqing Luo to suddenly point the spearhead at him. He remained silent for a moment as he grabbed Gu San and said, Bone Lord asked me to protect eldest young miss. I will do my best to protect eldest young Mississippi, the meaning behind his words. He actually agreed with Gu San's words. They were Bone Lord's secret guards. They would only acknowledge Bone Lord as their master. The reason why they were here was merely to comply with Bone Lord's orders. The few of them looked at these two secret guards' gazes as they became even stranger. From the looks of it, this eldest young miss of the Gu residence really wasn't pampered by Bone Lord. The secret guard's attitude explained everything. Then, could they totally not have any misgivings about Bone Lord? The few of them quietly exchanged glances. From each other's eyes, they saw the same answer. This seemed to be a secret exchange of glances. In actual fact, Yiqing Luo had seen everything, but she didn't have any reaction. Only half squinting her eyes, which were flickering brilliantly, the smile on her lips became slightly cold. Protect? But I totally didn't see you guys protecting me at all. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she continued. You two secret guards can't even be compared to this little bird, war pet of mine. Tell me, are you all trash? You. Gu San's face flushed red as he clenched his teeth and clenched his fists tightly. Yiqing Luo totally didn't give him a chance to continue speaking as she smiled and ridiculed. Moreover, he asked you to protect me, but you disobeyed his orders, so... Now, shouldn't you use your death to atone for your sins? Gu San's face instantly turned pale. Gu Yi's solemn face also had a layer of coldness. The two of them creased their brows tightly as they stared furiously at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo put on an innocent look as she shrugged her shoulders. Am I wrong? Ha ha ha. That's right. The old man suddenly laughed and opened his mouth. His murky old eyes were fixed on the two hidden guards. As hidden guards, disobeying the master's orders is indeed a capital crime. The other middle-aged men also echoed. Just like the dark guards trained by our family, the dark guards have to do whatever the master says. As a dark guard, they shouldn't have their own emotions. Even if I don't want to accept master's orders, but master's orders. Even if I die, I have to complete it. Eldest miss, such a disrespectful dark guard, deserves to be killed. As the few of them were talking, their gazes were carefully sizing up Yiqing Luo's expression. as though he was testing Yi Qing Luo's bottom line. Gu 1 and Gu 3's expressions alternated between green and white. Both of them clenched their fists and suppressed the anger in their chests. They could not refute that, because what these people said was indeed so. Dark guards were not allowed to have their own emotions, just as the atmosphere was in a deadlock. Chapter 40, 300. Gu Yun walked briskly into the meeting hall and stood in front of the two secret guards. Gu Yi's expression moved as his eyes fixed on Gu Yun for some time before he slowly lowered his head. "Captain, what are you doing here?" Gu Yun's expression was cold as she looked at Gu San. That gaze seemed to be reprimanding Gu San with, "What are you up to this time?" This caused Gu San's emotions to rise explosively. "Gu Yun, what right do you have to question me? Don't think that just because you're hugging her thigh, you're really the captain of the secret guards. In my heart, the captain is only Gu Yi." "Gu San." Gu Yi tugged Gu San's arm hard. "Apologize to the captain." Gu San gave a heavy harumph as he turned his head away. Gu Yi still wanted to say something. The girl who was sitting lazily suddenly stood up. In a split second, the entire hall fell into a dead silence. Everyone's vision involuntarily turned towards Yi Qing Luo. She was like a natural-born queen. Every move she made was able to attract everyone's attention. "There's no need to apologize." Yi Qing Luo's indifferent voice revealed a trace of coldness. She gently caressed the phoenix feathers as she lazily raised her eyelids. "Gu Yun, as the newly appointed captain, secret guards disobeying orders, disobeying discipline, and offending their superiors. What punishment should they receive?" Gu Yun heard the faint anger in Yi Qing Luo's tone. She took a look at the pale-faced Gu San and Gu Yi, whose expression wasn't too good, as she pursed her lips and replied, "Remove the secret guard title and, as a traitor, execute the punishment of dismemberment by 5 horses." Yi Qing Luo raised her hand as her fingers moved lightly. "Then we'll do it this way." Gu Yun was stunned as her face was filled with hesitation. Her hesitation wasn't because she was concerned about Gu Yi and Gu San, but she was worried if Yi Qing Luo's action would cause the other secret guards to retaliate. After all, this Gu Yi had been the captain for 10 years. In the Gu residence's secret guards, most of them were brought up by him. If Yi Qing Luo moved Gu Yi during the period when Bone Lord wasn't in the residence, she was worried that those secret guards would explode because of this. Yi Qing Luo saw through Gu Yun's thoughts as her lips curled upwards, her smile bright and beautiful. "You're now the captain of the secret guards. No need to worry." Gu Yun's expression was complicated, but she still obeyed Yi Qing Luo's command as she turned around to look at the 2 people behind her. Her expression was extremely solemn, without the slightest emotion. Gu San realized that Gu Yun was serious. Her face instantly turned pale, and her body trembled with all her might. You can't do this. Gu Yun, Gu Jun is not in the residence now. If you dare to touch us—" "Not you guys, it's you." Yi Qing Luo indifferently interrupted her words. Gu San's pupils suddenly widened as he stared venomously at Yi Qing Luo. "You dare!" "You can feel for yourself whether I dare or not." Yi Qing Luo smiled wickedly. "Eldest young miss." Gu San frowned as he took a look at Gu San and cupped his fists towards Yi Qing Luo. However, he did not finish his words. The young girl had already decisively interrupted his words. "I spared your life because I admire your strength. It's quite a pity for you to die like this. Moreover, you're quite polite." He was demoted from his position as the captain of the Dark Guard, although he was unwilling, but he still abided by his duty. Towards Gu Yi, Yi Qing Luo didn't have much opinion. Her motive was merely to get that annoying female secret guard to death. Why did a woman make things difficult for another woman, creating trouble time and time again? Chapter 4301. According to her past experiences, Yi Qing Luo expressed that she should directly kill this weirdo. She could save a lot of trouble. No matter how small the mosquito was, it was rather annoying to keep buzzing around. Gu Yi's pleading words were stuck in his throat. Looking at the young lady's languid expression, his lips moved, but one more word and you will die together with her. Yi Qing Luo impatiently interrupted him once again. Gu Yi pursed his lips as his brows creased into a bundle. Finally, he kept his mouth shut, not because he was afraid of death, but he knew clearly that Yi Qing Luo would not change her decision easily. According to what Guyan said, it wasn't scary to be dismembered by 5 horses. What was scary was to be stripped of the secret guard's name and to be labeled as a traitor. What the secret guards were most afraid of was to be labeled as a traitor. Gu-san had obviously thought of this as well. Seeing that Gu-yi really had no intention to speak, her twisted face turned pale like paper. "You can't do this! You have no right to do this!" Gu-yun directly went forward and locked Gu-san's arm with one hand, and with a backhand, she pressed it behind her back. Gu-yi's body moved as he looked at Gu-san, wanting to say something, but his lips squirmed for some time. He still moved away without saying a word. "This servant shall take her leave." Gu-yun locked Gu-san, bowed towards Yi Qing Luo, and left. Yi Qing Luo lazily brushed her hair and sat back on her seat as she gave an insincere smile. "I'm so sorry to have let everyone see such a joke." Everyone's faces darkened. It wasn't like earlier when they helped to make Yi Qing Luo teach the 2 secret guards a lesson. That time when they helped, it was merely to create trouble on purpose. They were certain that Yi Qing Luo was a young lady and had just arrived at the Gu residence, so she definitely wouldn't dare to create any huge commotion. It could be seen from the secret guard's attitude towards her. In this Gu residence, there were quite a number of people who weren't convinced by Yi Qing Luo's appearance, but they had not expected. Yi Qing Luo actually directly made Miss Yun take action. Without any hesitation, she took action, as though killing a secret guard to her was merely killing an ant. One had to know that from the conversation between Gu Yun and the 2 shadow guards, one could tell that the male secret guard was once the captain of the secret guards, but Yi Qing Luo had forcefully seized his authority. A female dark guard who could follow the dark guard captain naturally had a high level. However, the first miss of the Gu residence had been killed just like that. Could it be that she was not afraid that her actions would be too arrogant and cause the entire Gu residence to be dissatisfied? Everyone carefully sized up Yi Qing Luo's expression. The girl was still as calm and composed as ever. Everyone's hearts were inexplicably on edge. Just now, the young girl's actions, could it be that she was purposely killing the chicken to warn the monkey to take them down a notch? It was an invisible message to them. She, the first miss of the Gu residence, was fearless? Why are all of you staring at me for? Yi Qing Luo sensed their gazes and raised her brows slightly as she looked over. The few of them retracted their gazes in a panic. Their bodies were tense as they sat up straight. Yi Qing Luo. Was she that terrifying? Why did he look at her as if he was looking at a monster? She was a weak wastrel without the strength to even truss a chicken. If Yi Qing Luo knew what those people were thinking in their hearts, she would definitely have a look of disdain and ridicule, expressing that they were thinking too much. She had called Gu 1 and Gu 3 out at this moment, was merely to let these people bear witness. After all, this place wasn't her turf. To kill the Gu residence's secret guards. Chapter 4302. Gu-san dared to frown at her, his current master, in front of outsiders. This was enough for her to have an excuse to kill Gu-san. Even when others mentioned this matter, they would only say that she was helping the Gu residents to clean up the house. After all, as a secret guard, going against one's superior was capital offense. By then, even if the barbaric Bloodbone King asked, she would have an explanation. Surely she couldn't just kill someone else's man for no reason. On the other side, the crowd who had retracted their gazes, after they had done their subconscious actions, regained their senses and couldn't help but gave themselves a tight slap. How could they possibly be afraid of a young lass? How could they possibly meet a young lass's gaze and be scared to this state? Wren family's old man's face sunk as the hand which was hanging on the wooden chair clenched into a fist shape. Since eldest young Mrs. Private Matter has been settled now, isn't it our turn to settle our accounts? Yi Ching Luo found a comfortable position to lean against, as one hand propped up her chin, as she squinted at Wren family's old man with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Accounts? I have no accounts to settle with your Wren family. Not waiting for those people to open their mouths, Yi Ching Luo had already lazily raised her hand. Her jade-like finger slowly raised up one finger. Number 1, second young master in, took the initiative to receive my poison. He is a cultivator and I am just an ordinary person. My speed of withdrawing the poison is not as fast as his, so him being poisoned is his own fault. What has it got to do with me? Following that, her gaze directly swept past the stiff Wren family's old man, as she looked towards the other middle-aged men. The second finger was raised. Number 2, the battle pet battle, was suggested by Princess. The one who smashed your young master to death is also Princess's battle pet. What has it got to do with me? And what has it got to do with my little battle pet? Haven't you seen your young master's corpse? Do you think with my little battle pet's eyes it can smash your young master into minced meat? The middle-aged men were choked till they couldn't say a single word. Yi Ching Luo rolled her eyes with a look of disdain. A bunch of retards trying to find someone to take the blame. Don't use your brains. The middle-aged men. This young lady's mouth really couldn't say anything good. Someone wanted to open his mouth to refute Yi Ching Luo. But the minute he recalled Yi Ching Luo's indifferent expression earlier, directly asking Miss Yin to drag that secret guard down and execute the punishment of dismemberment, the words that were about to come out from his mouth were swallowed back unfathomably. The atmosphere in the hall immediately fell into a strange silence. A few breaths later, Gong Shizhu suddenly raised his head with a livid and hideous expression. His eyes were filled with intense disgust and hatred. Every single word of eldest miss is trying to clear her name of responsibility. But, eldest miss, have you forgotten that there were at least 100 onlookers that day? If there were only 1 or 2 people who believed that this matter had nothing to do with you, we wouldn't have come to you today. But if over 100 spectators all think that you should take responsibility for what happened that day, then this proves that whether it is the Wren family or the Zhao and Li families, you have an undeniable responsibility. Gong Shizhu said and stood up excitedly. It's a fact that Brother Ming was poisoned, and it's also a fact that he almost fainted from the poison. Xiong Batian smashed the Zhao and Li family's young master because your battle pet used its beast power to flip Xiong Batian, causing Xiong Batian to lose his balance. Chapter 4303. Gong Xiaozhu's voice turned crazier and crazier as her eyes shone with a maniacal glint. Return my Xiong Batian to me. If Xiong Batian disappears, then use your war pet to pay for it. Yi Ching Luo. Talking about Xiong Batian at such length, in actual fact. The last sentence was the main point, right? Was she still dreaming of her Qi Yan? Did Gong Xiaozhu think that her Qi Yan was so easy to contract? All right, it seemed that it was rather easy for her to contract Qi Yan. After all, Shao Qi was there to help. But even if she contracted Qi Yan, there weren't many people who could get along with Qi Yan. Sai, mentioning Shao Qi, she missed everyone in the pet space. Alas, she who had no profound energy was unable to form a mental link with the pet space. Luckily, there was a little Qi Yan to accompany her. It allowed her to have a familiar companion by her side in this inexplicable heaven realm. Yi Ching Luo played with Qi Yan's wings as her brows slowly rose. Her gaze was calm as she swept a glance at Gong Xiazhu. Gong Xiazhu's expression was calm and tranquil. His gaze moved very quickly, without much emotion, as though she didn't put Gong Xiazhu in her eyes at all. The truth was indeed so. After the young lady shifted her gaze, her voice was very languid. "Since that's the case, then we can't come to an agreement." Gong Xiazhu's back, for some reason, seemed to be covered with a layer of frost the moment the young lady's gaze swept past. That cold tone of voice also exuded a terrifying chill. Gong Xiazhu's heart suddenly tightened. Immediately after, she heard the young lady continued, "If we can't come to an agreement, then please leave. Whatever you want to do, just bring it on." These words were obviously considered as provocation and clamoring. But when the young lady said these words expressionlessly, the few of them felt an indescribable chill in their chest. Gong Xiazhu's body stiffened as her limbs turned icy cold. But she forced herself to look at Yi Qing Luo as her voice trembled slightly. "Eldest young Mrs. Meaning is... You want to represent the Gu residents to go against the Zhao and Li family, Ren family and the royal family?" As she said that, her gaze shot towards the expressionless Gu Yi who was standing by Yi Qing Luo's side. Apparently she knew that Gu Yi wasn't convinced by Yi Qing Luo wholeheartedly, so she intentionally used the bone manner to provoke Gu. However, Gu Yi was still expressionless, and he did not even raise his eyes. Yi Qing Luo naturally understood Gong Xiazhu's motive. She sneered, and her lazy eyes finally fell on Gong Xiazhu. She smiled and said in a clear voice, "Aren't you tired of passing messages like this? Wouldn't it be more convenient to let the person behind you come out and talk to me face to face?" There was a hint of ridicule in her tone. Gong Xiazhu's face turned pale and she shrank back. What do you mean by that person behind me?" "Princess Xiazhu, with your intelligence, you won't understand." Yi Qing Luo didn't even have the desire to answer her. If the person behind you still wants to be a coward, then directly send the guest off. These people could still maintain their composure in front of her, who was covered in dirt. She was covered in dirt and was in a sorry state, but there was no way she could maintain her composure. Not being able to see the person behind Gong Xiazhu, Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered to waste her bathing time with this bunch of retards. After Yi Qing Luo finished her words, she directly stood up and was about to leave the meeting hall. Suddenly, an extremely melodious, clear voice was heard from outside the door. "You're indeed the eldest young miss of the Gu residents, indeed intelligent." That was a lady's voice. Chapter 4304. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she looked towards the direction of the voice. The meeting hall's door was opened and a slender figure walked in slowly. The sunlight outside shone on the lady's exquisite beauty, as though it had coated the lady with a layer of fluorescent light. This lady didn't seem like an ordinary lady. She exuded the style of a strong woman from head to toe, especially that pair of ink-black eyes, which carried the dignity of a superior. Just one look was enough to make one feel respect and awe. Her dressing wasn't ostentatious, although it wasn't simple, but it wasn't complicated either. One could tell that this was a lady with her own independent thoughts. Yi Qing Luo was sizing her up. The lady was also sizing Yi Qing Luo up. As both of their gazes intersected, there seemed to be some kind of different sparks in the air. When everyone saw the person, they all stood up abruptly. Ren family's old man bowed respectfully towards that person. Eldest young Mississippi, the others also greeted her respectfully. Eldest young Miss Rin. The few of them also greeted her respectfully. Eldest young Miss Rin. The few of them's voices broke the undercurrent surging between the both of them. Yi Qing Luo half squinted her eyes as she revealed a deep meaning. She knew that when she saw Gong Xiazhu a few days ago, she was a big-breasted, brainless idiot. Today, every single word and sentence was on point. It was this lady who taught Gong Xiazhu how to speak behind her back. Ren family's eldest young Miss Ren Jianming's elder sister? Eldest young Miss. This form of address, really, had an extraordinary meaning. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes slowly rose as her lips curled into a faint arc. Eldest young Miss Ren, right? Since eldest young Miss is so curious about me, why don't you do it yourself? Why must you make use of a fool to do it for you? When she said the word fool, Yi Qing Luo's gaze intentionally shot a glance towards Gong Xiazhu. Gong Xiazhu was both angry and anxious. Who are you calling a fool? I'm talking about whoever replied earlier. Yi Qing Luo gave a fake smile. Gong Xiazhu's face flushed red as she clenched her fists tightly as her body trembled in anger. Don't think that you can continue to be arrogant. With sistering around, who do you think you are? Xiazhu. The woman spoke and glanced at Gong Xiazhu indifferently. Gong Xiazhu's face turned even redder, but she obediently shut her mouth and lowered her head. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. This young mistress of the Ren family seemed to be something. From the looks of it, compared to Ren Jianming, he was much more formidable. He could even call Gong Xiazhu's name directly. First Miss of the Gu clan. Ren family's eldest young, Miss Rin Jianying's beautiful eyes met with Yi Qing Luo's, as both of their eyes were probing each other. I'm only curious, what kind of lady does my arrogant brother fancy? Yi Qing Luo leaned lazily against the back of the chair as her lips curled indifferently. Sorry, I don't fancy your brother. His words shocked the surrounding people, causing their bodies to stiffen and their scalps to go numb. Did this girl know what she was talking about? Looking down on second young Master Rin, she didn't know how many people and clans in the Heaven Realm were thinking of ways to send their daughters to the Rin clan. He was a cultivation prodigy that only appeared once in 100 years. He was also the person who would become the head of the Rin family in the future. Furthermore, did she know that the person she was facing now was the current head of the Rin family, eldest young Miss Rin? Everyone in the old city knew about it. Chapter 4305. In front of the eldest miss of the Rin family, she said that she didn't fancy the brother she was so proud of. Eldest miss of the Gu residence really had guts, but while everyone was in shock, the girl that they were thinking about was still smiling faintly. Rin Jianying's expression sunk slightly. Do you know who is the person whom you rejected? Not interested to know. Yi Qing Luo was indifferent. Eldest miss of the Gu residence, as a person, you need to leave a way out for yourself. Ren Jianying's tone revealed some coercion. Although Bone Lord had brought you back to the Gu residence, but in this Heaven Realm, if you want to adapt, you still need to abide by the Heaven Realm's rules. Yi Qing Luo's gaze changed slightly. It wasn't because of Ren Jianying's threat, but Ren Jianying's meaning seemed to be that she knew that she wasn't someone who was in the Heaven Realm right from the start. Did Ren Jianying know that she was brought up from the Earth Realm by the barbaric Bloodbone King? Seeing that Yi Qing Luo didn't reply, the stern lines on Ren Jianying's face softened slightly. Eldest miss of the Gu residence is intelligent and has a forthright character. Although you don't have any profound energy, but you are worthy of my Rin family. Since my brother has taken a liking to you, I will respect my brother's foresight. When Bone Lord is back, I will discuss with the Gu residents about our marriage. Yi Qing Luo. Why was it that no matter where she went, she couldn't escape the curse of being mysteriously engaged? She rolled her eyes. Since you like your younger brother so much, why don't you just marry him? Why put on an act in front of me? That sentence shocked the surrounding people so much that their spines turned cold as their palms were filled with cold sweat. What on earth was this eldest miss of the Gu residence saying? Actually wanted eldest Miss Rin to marry second young Master Rin? How did she come up with such an earth-shattering idea? Rin Jianying's expression congealed as her expression turned black. Eldest miss of the Gu residence, you can't talk nonsense. Jianming is my brother. Yi Qing Luo crossed her legs as she was smiling, but there wasn't any hint of a smile in her eyes. Anyway, I have no interest in your brother. If you want to find a wife for your brother, go ahead and marry her yourself. Don't drag me into it. I have no time to bother about you. Rin, Jianying's expression, turned gloomy. She lifted her feet and walked towards Yi Qing Luo. With a formless pressure, it poured down in torrents. That exquisite and beautiful face was also filled with a fierce aura. Does the first young miss of the Gu clan really think that the Gu clan can do whatever they want? Her voice was very cold. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head, as her charming eyes looked at the lady who was getting closer to her, as her expression remained unchanged. I don't know if the Gu residents can cover the sky with one hand, but I know that the Rin family doesn't have that ability. He was just 3 steps away from Yi Qing Luo. Rin, Jianying, suddenly stopped in her tracks. Gu Yi's figure, at this instance, shifted to the front of Yi Qing Luo, blocking in front of her. Rin, Jianying's flamboyant and beautiful face was filled with some incomprehensible emotions. I've always heard rumors about the young miss of the Gu clan. Seeing you today, it seems that you're not much different from the rumors. I've finally learned something. Well said, well said. Yi Qing Luo replied casually. Chapter 4306. The feather fan in Yi Qing Luo's hand swayed slightly and pressed against her alluring pink lips. Return the same words to eldest young Miss Rin, don't. Cry and beg me when the time comes. Rin, Jianying, snorted coldly. She straightened her back, raised her chin slightly, and walked towards the door. Let's go. The few people who were frozen in place felt their legs go soft. Seeing that Rin Jianying had already walked to the door, he staggered and followed her. Gong Xiazhu walked at the back with a ferocious expression on his face. When she stepped out of the meeting hall's main door, she turned her head around and stared venomously at Yi Qing Luo. Very quickly, Gu Yin came forward and turned her head to look at the door while approaching Yi Qing Luo with concern. Eldest young miss, are you all right? Do I look like someone who will get into trouble? Yi Qing Luo spread out her hands lazily and said with a smile. Gu Yin looked in the direction of the door again. Her expression was a little grave. Eldest miss, why do you think they came here? Probing. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Probe? Gu Yin was puzzled. Probe what? They are investigating the background of this eldest young miss who suddenly appeared in the Gu residence. They also want to know what my position in the Gu residence is. Yi Qing Luo explained. Gu Yu nodded in understanding. For example, the Bone Mansion was a force that had absolute power in the Heaven Realm. Any random person who appeared beside Bone Lord would be the center of attention in the Heaven Realm. After all, Bone Lord had personally brought her back and announced her identity as the eldest Mississippi. It would definitely cause a sensation in the entire Heaven Realm. Gu Yin suddenly thought of something, and her expression changed slightly, since they are here to investigate the position of the eldest miss in the Gu residence. Then, Gu San's actions just now, isn't it? Thinking of this, Gu Yan's face instantly turned pale. A hidden guard of the Gu residence had offended his superior in front of outsiders. He did not give the first miss any face at all. If those people spread the news, it was likely that not long later, the entire Heaven Realm would think that eldest miss was not favored in the Gu residence. No wonder eldest miss was so angry at that time. Obviously, Bone Monarch doted on eldest miss so much that he even gave the Bone residence's domino plate to eldest miss. Was this not enough to prove that Bone Lord valued eldest miss? Don't worry, eldest Mississippi. I will definitely punish Gu Sen severely. I will let the Gu residence's secret guards learn a lesson. Gu Yan's eyes became fierce. Gu Yi, who had been standing by Yi Qing Luo's side, trembled slightly. However, he maintained a quiet posture with his head lowered and did not say anything. Yi Qing Luo's vision lightly fell onto Gu Yi as her tone was indifferent. Do you blame me? Gu Yi went into a blank for a moment before he realized that Yi Qing Luo was asking him. His stern and rigid face was somewhat stiff. Was it strange? He couldn't tell what he was feeling. It was not strange. Gu San, who had always been by her side for more than 10 years, was ordered by her to carry the name of a traitor and die. It was strange. What she did was not wrong. Wrong, it really was Gu San. He was a secret guard. Shadow guards shouldn't have their own emotions. After a long time, Gui lowered his eyes and said, "I don't dare." That is to say, it's weird, but it doesn't dare to. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes twitched. Gu Yi maintained his posture of lowering his head, as his lips moved, but he didn't know how to explain. Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly, as she directly walked out of the meeting hall. Chapter 4307. Gu Yi raised his head abruptly. He stared blankly at the young lady's departing figure. In his pupils, there was some kind of emotion surging. He couldn't understand the lady whom Bone Lord had brought back. She obviously had no profound energy, but she lived so wantonly, as though she wasn't afraid of anything. She looked vicious and merciless, but in actual fact, whether it was against Princess Xia Zhu or Gu San, it was all because Princess Xia Zhu and Gu San took the initiative to provoke her. That was why she retaliated. But to those who treated her well, for example, Gu Yin, was repaying with the most sincere kindness. Earlier, that sentence of hers was a reminder to him. Gu San's ending was already decided after many outsiders had seen it. If he helped, he would only become Gu San's accomplice. Her reminder was because earlier, when Ren Jianying approached, he blocked in front of her. Yi Qing Luo came out of the meeting hall. The first thing she did was to rush into the hot spring room to take a bath, because of the previous incident where Ren Jianying peeped. At this moment, Gu Yun was guarding at the entrance of the hot spring room, until Yi Qing Luo tidied herself up, dressed neatly, and walked out of the hot spring room. Gu Yun held a cloak in her hand as she draped it over Yi Qing Luo. "Eldest miss, what do you want to do next? Do you need me to help you find out Zhao and Li family, as well as Ren family's next move?" Ever since Yi Qing Luo mentioned that the group of them came to the Gu residence to investigate, Gu Yan's heart had been tense because of Gu San's matter. Yi Qing Luo sat on the stone bench, allowing Gu Yan to wipe her wet hair, as she replied disapprovingly, "No need, they can do whatever they want. Don't tell me Gu residents can't stop them." Gu Yan's hand paused for a moment. If the Zhao and Li family want to take action on Gu residents naturally can stop them, but there's still the Ren family. She paused for a moment before continuing. Ren family's internal affairs are extremely complicated. Ren family's second young master, although his innate talent is outstanding, but because of his innate talent, he was pampered by the Ren family since young. He only thinks about eating, drinking, and playing, totally without the temperament of a future patriarch. On the surface, the Ren clan is managed by the Ren clan's clan head. However, in reality, the true master of the Ren clan is the Ren clan's eldest young Mississippi. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her originally closed eyes suddenly opened. No wonder! She felt that Ren Jianying had the demeanor of a superior. No matter how one looked at her, she had the demeanor of a strong and valiant woman. Who would have thought that he would actually be this strong? The Ren family's second young master has always been idle and does not have the slightest interest in inheriting the position of Ren family's family head. Many powers are saying that in the future, the Ren family might become the first female family head to be succeeded by a woman. Gu Yin saw that Yi Qing Luo's interest was piqued and continued. Today, Ren family's eldest young miss came over personally. Based on Ren family's eldest young miss character, I'm afraid she won't let this matter rest. Yi Qing Luo touched her lower jaw as her pink lips rose slightly. Looks like this Ren family is quite fun. A glint flashed across her eyes. Did he have nothing better to do? Did he not have the slightest interest in inheriting the position of patriarch? He wasn't interested, or did he not dare to be interested? Yi Qing Luo recalled how she looked when she met Ren Jianming. Between her breathing, she snorted lightly. Eldest young miss, before Bone Lord returns to the residence, if it's possible, it's best to avoid any conflict with the Ren family. Gu Yin reminded. Chapter 4308. But for the past few days, Yi Qing Luo was either loitering around the old city streets and alleys or cooped up in the Gu residence. He knew his place and didn't cause any trouble. While Gu Yin heaved a sigh of relief, she also felt a little helpless, because during this period of time, from time to time, the second young master of the Ren family would enter the Bone residence. From time to time, it would appear in front of Yi Qing Luo. From time to time, he would create some romantic surprises. After the commotion in the Gu residence was over, there was a commotion outside. After the commotion outside, the commotion at home began. In any case, everyone in the old city knew that the second young master of the Rin family had taken a liking to the first young lady of the Gu clan. He was thinking of ways and means to pursue the first young lady of the Gu clan. It was also rumored that the first young miss of the Gu family did not like the second young master of the Rin family at all and had righteously rejected the second young master of the Rin family. However, the second young master of the Rin family was shameless and only wanted to win the beauty. This news broke the hearts of all the girls in the old city. They missed the second young master of the Rin family, and they couldn't bear to see him suffer even the slightest bit. However, in front of the first miss of the Gu residence, he had to lower his head and act like a child. His heart ached. As a result, all the young ladies in the old city held deep resentment towards the first miss of the Gu clan. Wherever Yi Qing Luo went, she could feel the sinister wind coming from her back. Yi Qing Luo. Couldn't she reject him even if she didn't like him? Only by rejecting their male idol would they have a chance, right? What was there to hate? Young miss, where else do you want to go? Behind him, Rin Jianming smiled obsequiously. He was carrying all kinds of big bags on his back and many small ones in his hands. Those were all. Rin family's second young master's beautiful excuse, bought for Yi Qing Luo to make her happy. As long as Yi Qing Luo passed by, her eyes would stop on something for a second longer. He bought them all. He was so rich that he had no friends. Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered to stop her. In any case, this silly man was stupid and had a lot of money. Yi Qing Luo didn't even bother about him. Rin Jianming was really annoying when he started pestering people. However, when he became shameless, no matter how he was beaten, scolded, or given a face, he would still come up to them with a smirk. She had even tried using drugs to force him to retreat. Once the effects of the medicine wore off, Rin Jianming could continue to pester her with a smirk. Yi Qing Luo was really impressed by Rin Jianming's thick skin. She really didn't know what part of her had caught Rin Jianming's eyes that were growing on top of her head. She was a trash without any profound energy. Aside from her title as the first young miss of the Gu residence, Gu Royun was not the only one. There didn't seem to be anything that could attract Rin Jianming, right? However, with Rin Jianming's status and identity, did he still need to find her, the young miss of the Gu residence, for a marriage alliance? Isn't the wind cloud list going to start soon? Don't you need to cultivate by following me around every day? Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at Rin Jianming. It was only half a month away from the wind cloud list. Many high officials, nobles, and the participating profound practitioners were all training madly just to achieve a good result on the wind and cloud list. And this Rin Jianming, who had vowed from the very beginning that he would come out on top on the billboard, was following behind her every day, doing nothing. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's question, Rin Jianming's eyes lit up. His smile was full of flattery and his eyes were bright. So eldest miss is so concerned about me? So afraid that the person you're going to marry isn't me? Eldest miss, don't worry. I will definitely be able to get first place on the wind cloud list, and then marry you grandly. Chapter 4309. Even if I don't cultivate, I'll definitely take the top spot on the excellence list. The more Rin Jiaming spoke, the more excited he became. His sparkling eyes blinked as he looked at Yi Qing Luo, revealing an affectionate gaze. Even if it's for eldest young miss, this master will also work hard. Yi Qing Luo. Get lost. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes. She would only talk to a lunatic if she was sick. Rin Jiaming was a lunatic. However, Rin Jiaming's tone was indeed full of confidence. Was this the difference between a genius and a useless person? The others worked hard, cultivated, trained, and improved themselves time and time again. As for him, he just wandered around here and there. He looked as if he had never cultivated before. However, he was confident that he would be able to obtain the top spot on the wind cloud list. There was no point in being envious. If he had talent, that was his own ability. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about Rin Jianming as she continued to wander around the streets. Wherever he went, there would be many onlookers gathering behind him. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about them. During this period of time, Yi Qing Luo seemed to be wandering around the streets with nothing to do. In reality, he was trying to figure out the terrain of the old city. In her mind, she could already picture the topography of the old city. She knew exactly what kind of power they were and where they were located. At the same time, he also heard some gossip in a restaurant and learned some news about the major powers in the old city. This would allow him to better grasp information about the Heaven Realm before the blood-bone barbarian king. In this half a month, Yi Qing Luo had yet to destroy the Gu residence. He could not be bothered to instigate the people of the Bone residence. Ever since the news of Gu Sen being dismembered by 5 horses, it had spread throughout the entire Gu residence. Everyone knew that this seemingly gentle and weak young lady was not like what she seemed on the surface. On the contrary, he was extremely arrogant. When he was insolent, he was even scarier than their Lord Bone sovereign. All of them didn't dare to provoke Yi Qing Luo. But after all, Yi Qing Luo was an outsider. After Bone Lord brought the person back, he didn't stand by Yi Qing Luo's side to announce it in front of everyone. Everyone's attitude towards Yi Qing Luo was merely conforming to the norm. Today is the day that the 100 Medicine House is auctioning pills. Suddenly, the snake man behind her opened his mouth in surprise, and in a few steps, he had already jumped in front of Yi Qing Luo. Rin Jianming's face was full of excitement. Eldest miss, let's go. I'll take you to the 100 Medicine House to play. Aren't you an apothecary? There are many rare herbs in the 100 Medicine House. You will definitely be interested in them. Following Ren Jianming's gaze, Yi Qing Luo looked towards a corner not too far away, which looked extremely simple and unadorned. At the entrance of the courtyard, there were already 2 long lines. There were men and women, young and old, and it was extremely lively. Yi Qing Luo searched for information about the 100 Medicine House in her mind. It was the largest medicinal hall in the entire city, and it seemed that the power behind it was one of the 4 great families. However, no one knew exactly what faction it was. In addition, the 100 Medicine House was in the business of elixirs. Profound practitioners who cultivated basically had a need for elixirs. Buying pills from the 100 Medicine House was more or less giving face to the 100 Medicine House. For a long time, no one dared to cause trouble in the 100 Medicine House. Regarding 100 Medicine House's understanding, Yi Qing Luo was only limited to the surface. She really didn't know about the day of the 100 Medicine House's auction. Usually, towards those rare and precious elixirs, Yi Qing Luo really wouldn't put it to heart. Chapter 4310. But now, do I have to queue up? Yi Qing Luo decisively chose. Go. Who knows? She might really encounter some rare herbs. Rin Jianming's eyes lit up even more. He spread his feet and rushed towards 100 Medicine House. He threw all the big and small bags that he was carrying onto the apprentice who was guarding the entrance. Following that, he stuffed a bag of crystal stones into the apprentice's hand. Go, go, go! Send these things to the Gu residence. That apprentice was dumbfounded and only reacted when he saw Yi Qing Luo walking over slowly. The apprentice took the crystal stones and left. Ren Jiaming was relaxed as he stared at Yi Qing Luo with his burning eyes, putting on a smile which he thought was suave. Eldest miss, follow me, and you don't need to queue up wherever you want to go. Saying that, he stretched out his hand towards Yi Qing Luo. Eldest miss, I'll bring you in. Yi Qing Luo shot a glance at that long queue as the corners of her lips twitched. These people should be here to collect the free medicinal herbs from 100 Medicine House. Along the way, many people were discussing. She heard it all. 100 Medicine House would set up an auction for rare herbs at the beginning of every month and on the day of the auction. They would also distribute 1,000 sets of medicinal pills or medicinal herbs. The medicinal pills distributed were mostly refined by 100 Medicine House's apprentices. There were some low-grade healing pills, or to regulate one's breath, replenish energy, etc. Of course, the medicinal pills which 100 Medicine House distributed were all tested to ensure the medicinal effect and absolute safety. Because of this, many cultivators would run over to collect their medicinal pills. After all, not every cultivator was filthy rich. There were also poor cultivators. Ren Jiaming's pretentious act failed, but there was no trace of embarrassment on his face as he maintained a suave smile and winked at Yi Qing Luo. I can bring you to the VIP seats. Yi Qing Luo placed her fan on his face. Lead the way. All right. Ren Jiaming was all smiles as he walked in front, leading the way for Yi Qing Luo. Ren Jiaming's face was his pass. After entering 100 Medicine House, there was no need for a full-body check like the other guests. The two of them directly entered the auction house, set up by the 100 Medicine House. There were even apothecaries who came to welcome them. The apothecary arranged seats for them in the first row. This position was directly facing the auction stage, so the view was excellent. Exquisite snacks and tea were placed on both sides of the seats. Ren Jiaming poured a cup of hot tea and passed it to Yi Qing Luo in a fawning manner. Eldest miss, are there many benefits if you follow this young master? As long as you marry this young master, you can also enjoy these benefits. Yi Qing Luo received the tea, which he passed over, and took a sip before rolling her eyes at him. It seemed that since that time when she had a conflict with Gong Shezhu on the street and poisoned Ren Jiaming's attitude towards her was even more enthusiastic than before. Could it be that this Ren Jiaming was actually a masochist? He loved the feeling of being abused by her. Was that why he kept pestering her? After all, in the entire heaven realm, it seemed like only she would dare to bully him, right? Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo's gaze towards Ren Jiaming was filled with a peculiar expression. Brother Ming. Suddenly, a woman's sullen low voice was heard from behind, and a slender figure rushed over in quick steps. The woman was dressed in a luxurious palace dress, and her dressing was dignified and elegant, but her face was filled with anger. Chapter 43:11. This lady wasn't she. Princess Xiazhu? Yi Qing Luo looked at the lady's gaze lazily. She sighed silently in her heart. It was indeed a law that couldn't be changed. Auctions were equivalent to creating trouble. It wasn't that she was meddling in other people's affairs, but there were always some retarded people who stretched their faces out for her to slap. Gong Shezhu clenched her luxurious sleeves and looked at Ren Jiaming affectionately with her beautiful eyes that were covered with exquisite eye makeup. She pouted as she felt wronged. Brother Ming, didn't you say you don't have time when I invited you to attend 100 Medicine House's auction? Gong Xiazhu was about to go crazy from anger. Early in the morning, she opened the invitation that Yu Ying sent to Ren Jiaming. She hoped that Ren Jiaming would accompany her to represent the royal family to attend this auction. because 100 Medicine House had always been doing good deeds. Every time they auctioned off half of the crystals, they would donate it to various places in Heaven Realm. He wanted to build shelters for all the profound practitioners, give them a place to stay and give them a place to cultivate. The royal family naturally came over to express their gratitude, but Rin Jiaming used the excuse that he didn't have time to reject her invitation. But when he came here, she saw Rin Jiaming attentively serving tea to Yiqing Luo and even gave a fawning smile, thinking of the rumors that had spread throughout the old city these few days. Gong Xiazhu gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. She couldn't wait to chop Yiqing Luo into pieces. Her brother Ming should be high up, like a celestial being. That slut from Gu Residence actually gave brother Ming a hard time. Gong Xiazhu was so angry that her eyes turned red. But towards her inner thoughts, Rin Jiaming apparently had no intention to understand. As his gaze swept over her, his expression became a little more indifferent. His tone of voice was also very indifferent, that's right. I really don't have the time to accompany the eldest Mississippi, Brother Ming. Gong Xiazhu's face turned pale as she stared at him in disbelief. She didn't believe that Ren Jiaming didn't know about her feelings towards him, but he still hurt her heart. It must be that slut from Gu Residence who forced him to do so. Gong Xiazhu bit her lower lip as her hands curled into fists. In the end, he angrily flung his sleeves and sat next to Rin Jiaming. Rin Jiaming did not care about Gong Xiazhu's existence. Following that, he looked towards Yiqing Luo as his face resumed his smile. Eldest young miss, if there's anything you fancy, just tell me and I'll buy it for you. Yiqing Luo propped up her chin as her long and narrow eyes wandered between Ren Jiaming and Gong Xiazhu with a smile which didn't look like a smile. After Rin Jiaming said this, Yi Shiwen's expression changed. Yiqing Luo could obviously feel Gong Xiazhu's venomous gaze falling onto her. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue. I wonder if this brat did it on purpose. He was quite good at attracting hatred. I'm afraid Gong Xiazhu won't let this auction go easily. As expected, everything was as Yiqing Luo had predicted. When the auction of the rare herbs began, as long as her gaze lingered on the auction item for a moment longer, Gong Xiazhu would raise the price. And because she had taken an extra glance, Rin Jiaming was determined to get the medicinal ingredients. Therefore, the two of them competed against each other. After a while, when it came to the fifth item, Yiqing Luo took another look at it. The two of them were still competing against each other. Yiqing Luo was always the last to make him give up bidding. Chapter 43:12. Rin Jiaming couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to show off in front of the girl he liked. There would always be idiots messing around. His expression turned gloomy as he cast a cold glance at Gong Xiazhu. Princess Xiazhu, when are you going to stop? Gong Xiazhu bit her lower lip, and her exquisite makeup couldn't hide her pale face. She took a deep breath, stubbornly looked into Ren Jiaming's eyes, and slightly raised her chin. I like it, so it's naturally mine. You like her? What's the point of you shooting these things? Ren Jiaming's tone was full of sarcasm. This was like a slap to Gong Xiazhu's face. Her face alternated between green and white. Her poisonous eyes looked at Ren Jiaming with hatred. How do you know that I'm useless? Only the first miss of the Gu Residence is allowed to refine pills. Does our imperial family not have any alchemists? This was the first time Ren Jiaming had seen such an expression on Gong Xiazhu's face. In his memories, when he first met Gong Xiazhu's eyes were filled with love when she saw him. Rin Jiaming did not speak for a while. Yiqing Luo naturally saw the scene. She curled her pink lips into a faint smile, and her meaningful gaze fell on Gong Xiazhu. This Princess Xiazhu, could it be that she had been corrupted? They were stimulated by Ren Jiaming. Rin Jiaming was even willing to glare at him? Did he hate Rin Jiaming? Luo. This had little to do with her. She didn't care about the development between Ran Jiaming and Gong Shizhu. Luo retracted her vision and placed her gaze back onto the auction stage. Compared to the entanglement of love and hate between the two people beside him, those medicinal herbs were more attractive to her. At this moment, a huge stone box was placed on the auction stage. The stone box was made of excellent material. It felt as if water had penetrated through ice. Luo raised her eyebrows slightly. This kind of stone box should be carved from thousand-year-old ice. The medicinal herbs needed to be placed in the millennium frigid ice. Luo was intrigued. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed. The shopkeeper of 100 Medicine House slowly opened the wooden box. Inside, there was a green plant that seemed to be dripping mist. The branches were roughly as thick as a finger, and there were countless fibrous roots growing out of them. They formed the shape of a mountain, densely packed and intertwined with one another. In the stone box, there were still traces of cold air floating around. In Luo's mind, she instantly matched this medicinal herb with one of the contents in the 100-pill refining manual. Illusionary 3 do grasp this herb. She had never seen it in the Nirvana realm. For this herb, the contents of the 100 refinement pill were very simple. High-level medicinal herbs, highly toxic, cleansing the bones, and even reviving the dead. Only one function, medicine. As for what kind of medicine it was not made clear. Facing these few lines of words, Luo was speechless. If not for the fact that Zhang Xian knew the contents of the 100 refinements pill, he would have believed it to be true. She even suspected that what was written on it might be nonsense. Not only was it highly toxic, but it was also a cleansing method. How could he cleanse his foundation if he was poisoned? Can a highly toxic poison be brought back to life? Wasn't poison supposed to kill with a single touch? Also, why could poison be used as a catalyst? The catalyst for the poison? Just as Luo was rubbing her chin, thinking about the real use of the 3-do grass, suddenly a voice came from the side. This princess bids 5 million crystal stones. It was Gong Xiazhu. Luo glanced sideways, then met with Gong Xiazhu's provocative gaze. So, that fellow saw her staring at the 3-do grass, thinking that she wanted it. Chapter 40, 3:13. Gong Xiazhu felt that. Snatching the medicinal herb which she had her eyes on was considered as winning her. Wasn't that a little too childish? She could say that from the start till the end, the only thing which piqued her interest was only this stalk of 3-do grass. 1 million. Rin Jiaming immediately raised his paddle. As he raised his paddle, he leaned his head over and looked at Luo. Eldest young miss, you don't need to save money for me. I don't have many other things, but I have a lot of money. If she wants to snatch it, I will compete with her till the end. His voice wasn't soft at all. Gong Xiazhu naturally heard all of this, whereas at this moment there was someone else who had bid for the 3-do grass to 8 million crystal stones. Gong Xiazhu directly raised her paddle. 10 million, 11 million. Rin Jiaming hurriedly raised his paddle. Earlier, when Luo stopped those medicinal herbs, he didn't continue bidding because he could tell that Luo didn't have any special feelings towards those medicinal herbs. But earlier, Luo had obviously stared at the illusion 3-do grass for a longer period of time. Moreover, her eyes were filled with curiosity towards the 3-do grass, something which the goddess liked. He must get it for his goddess. Gong Xiazhu pursed her lips tightly. 15 million! Rin Jiaming didn't increase the bid as he just raised it by 1 million with Gong Xiazhu. The others could tell that the undercurrent between the two of them was surging. No one joined in their bidding, until Gong Xiazhu shouted out a bid of 25 million. Luo raised her hand and pressed Rin Jiaming's hand, which was raising his paddle as she glanced at him indifferently. There's no need to bid. Rin Jiaming's eyes were fixated on Yi Qing Luo's hand, which was pressing on his arm as his eyes were filled with agitation. His lips curled into a huge smile. He looked a little silly. The goddess took the initiative to hold his hand. Took the initiative to hold his hand. Hold his hand. Hand. Agitated, he directly raised his other hand and shouted loudly, 26 million! The goddess took the initiative to hold his hand. How could he let the goddess down? Are you silly? Yi Qing Luo released his arm as she glanced sideways at Gong Xiazhu, who was preparing to bid. An indistinct teasing look flashed past her eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sly smile. Without waiting for Rin Jiaming to speak, she then said lightly, that piece of broken grass isn't worth this price. Princess Xia Zhu likes to act foolishly, so I'm just cooperating with her. She's a princess of the royal family after all. It's only right for her to do more good deeds. Rin Jiaming stared blankly for a moment. His mind quickly turned. You mean to say you stared at the medicinal herbs on purpose? Otherwise, why would I stop you? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and asked. Rin Jiaming slowly put down his hand that was holding the signboard. His face was full of disappointment. It was so hard to please the goddess. Was there really nothing that could catch the eye of the goddess? Their positions were very close to Gong Xiazhu. Whatever Yi Qing Luo said, Gong Xiazhu naturally heard all. She stood up in anger. First young miss of the Gu residence, are you playing with me? Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes rose as she looked at her lazily. How could it be teasing? Isn't Princess Xia Zhu's purpose of coming here to do good deeds for the development of the heaven realm? Gong Xia Zhu's expression sunk. The crystals that she had used in this auction had already exceeded the amount of crystals that her imperial father had given her. If there weren't enough crystals, she would have to deduct it from her princess residence. Chapter 40, 3:14. If these losses could make Yi Qing Luo suffer, she would feel comfortable spending so many crystal stones. But Yi Qing Luo had purposely tricked her into bidding for medicinal herbs at a high price. How could she be reconciled to this? They couldn't wait to skin Yi Qing Luo alive. You did it on purpose. Gong Xiazhu was so angry that her whole body was trembling, and her face was hideous. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing. Am I holding a knife to your neck to force you to bid? Gong Xiazhu was rendered speechless. Princess Xia Zhu, the shopkeeper of the 100 Medicine House, cautiously said, If Princess Xia Zhu still wants to continue bidding, please raise your sign. Princess Xia Zhu's current behavior has affected everyone. Gong Xiazhu's face sank. Her eyes were like torches as she glared at the manager. The shopkeeper shrunk his neck. To this arrogant and despotic Princess Xia Zhu, the entire old city kept a respectful distance from him. If he could avoid provoking them, he would try his best not to. Yi Qing Luo rubbed her chin lazily. Princess Xia Zhu must remember that today you are representing the royal family. Gong Xiazhu wanted to cause trouble. Then it could be said that Gong Xiazhu had received the emperor's decree, which was why she caused trouble in the 100 Medicine House. Gong Xiazhu naturally did not dare to do so. It was fine for him to be arrogant and willful when he represented his own identity, but the reputation of the royal family was at stake. No matter how much imperial father dotes on her, he will still punish her because of this. Gong Xiazhu returned to her seat angrily. The shopkeeper cautiously glanced at Gong Xiu, then tentatively said, 26 million crystals going once. After shouting, he paused for a moment. Gong Xiazhu didn't have much of a reaction. Only his face was steely green as he stared unblinkingly at Yi Qing Luo's direction. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and confirm it a second time. Yi Qing Luo turned her head towards Gong Xiazhu as she gave a smile which didn't look like a smile. Isn't Princess Xiazhu bidding anymore? This is the herb that I want. Gong Xiazhu was so angry that her face trembled. I don't want to. These 5 words were practically squeezed out from between the gaps of her teeth, one word at a time. Previously, those messy, unknown medicinal herbs were used by Yi Qing Luo in this way, to intentionally cheat her to bid for them. How dare he lie to her now? Yi Qing Luo gave a regretful sigh as she shifted her gaze away. Upon seeing this, Gong Xiazhu was even more determined in her thoughts. The third confirmation was the final word. Rin Jianming won the illusionary 3 dugras with a price of 26 million crystal stones. When the next auction item was brought up, Yi Qing Luo slowly got up. Let's go. Ren Jianming was still immersed in the depression of not being able to please the goddess. Then you can continue to stay here. Yi Qing Luo didn't even turn her head back. Miss, don't you want to continue looking at the rest of the herbs? There will definitely be something that will interest you. Rin Jianming hurriedly followed. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards, the corners of her eyes curved upwards, outlining a seductive poppy. What I want. You have already bought it. What do you mean? Before he could say West, Rin Jianming seemed to have thought of something. You're talking about that illusion, 3 dugras. Yes. Yi Qing Luo nodded with a smile. That's a good thing. You definitely won't lose out. This young master will give it to you. Ren Jianming's face was filled with joy as he immediately took the crystal stones and ran over to exchange for the 3 dugras which he had bid for. Their conversation was heard clearly by Gong Xiazhu, who was sitting by the side. Her expression instantly turned steely green. She abruptly stood up and pointed at Yi Qing Luo. Her voice was filled with hatred. You. Chapter 40, 3:15. Good. Gong Xiazhu clenched her teeth tightly, as though this was the only way to maintain her emotions. Her malevolent face was totally unable to adjust. Yi Qing Luo smiled like a flower. I'm naturally very well, but Princess Xiazhu should have suffered a heavy loss today, so she won't be able to recover. Gong Xiazhu's entire body was trembling slightly, as though her eyes were about to spit out fire. She couldn't suppress the hatred in her heart towards the young lady in front of her. Yi Qing Luo didn't care. When she raised her eyes, she saw Ran Jianming carrying the stone box which contained the 3 dugras as he walked over excitedly. She walked past Gong Xiazhu as she headed towards the entrance of the auction venue. Rin Jianming hurriedly followed up. Not even a corner of his eyes swept towards Gong Xiazhu until the 2 figures disappeared at the entrance. Gong Xiazhu's body seemed to have lost all her energy as she sat weakly on the seat. That sinister and twisted face that was covered in the rain was bursting with the most vicious anger. No one dared to look towards Gong Xiazhu's direction. Among the people present, there was no lack of prominent people. Their actions weren't because they were afraid of Gong Xiazhu, but trouble. They didn't want to get into this kind of trouble. After walking out of 100 Medicinal House, Rin Jianming followed behind Yi Qing Luo as he passed the stone box to her. Eldest miss, this is for you. Yi Qing Luo didn't receive it. After a few steps, she suddenly halted her footsteps. Rin Jianming hurriedly halted his footsteps as he smiled and leaned in front of her. The man's handsome face was filled with a fawning look as his eyes started to sparkle. Yi Qing Luo looked at him fixedly for some time. If it wasn't for the fact that her emotions were very mild and her gaze was also very mild, Rin Jianming might even think that she was beginning to fall for his handsomeness and elegance. But her gaze apparently wasn't sinking into it. After staring for a long time, Yi Qing Luo frowned as she asked calmly, "What do you want to do?" Rin Jianming looked at her blankly with a puzzled look. Say your real motive. Yi Qing Luo didn't beat around the bush. Rin Jianming scratched his head, as though he didn't understand. My real motive? What motive? If you don't say it, you won't have the chance to say it in future. Yi Qing Luo didn't want to talk nonsense with him as she turned around and left. Rin Jianming's eyes sunk slightly as he speedily shifted towards Yi Qing Luo, blocking her in front. There was no longer the fawning and flattering expression on his face. On his handsome face, his gaze was a little deep. "Are you going to say it?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. "How did you find out?" Ren Jianming looked into her eyes with curiosity. "I thought I acted well." Eyes. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as her lips curled slightly. "The way you look at me, from the first time you saw me, it's totally different." It was as if he had become another person when Rin Jianming first met her. The way he looked at her was obviously filled with intense interest, but it was not disgusting. But the second time they met, there was obviously a slight change in him. His eyes were filled with the desire to possess her. Yes, possessive. It was a possessive desire to let her belong to him alone. But there was no love in this possessiveness. After that, Rin Jianming began to pester her, as though he really fell deeply in love with her. He was wholeheartedly thinking of marrying her, so he kept pestering her and followed behind her. Fawning, acting dumb. Yi Qing Luo didn't believe that just a few meetings could make a man be dead set on her, and even change because of her? She didn't believe it. Chapter 43:16. Rin Jianming looked at her silently. After a long time, his chest shook as he laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha! Eldest young miss of the Gu residence, I realize that I'm really liking you more and more." As he said that, his body suddenly got closer to Yi Qing Luo. That handsome face was magnified in Yi Qing Luo's pupils from a close distance. He grinned as his smile was filled with some evilness. Just like that, he got close to her ear as he muttered softly, "This sentence is from my heart." The unfamiliar man's breath seeped into her nostrils. Yi Qing Luo frowned as she speedily took a step back, leaving the encirclement of Ren Jianming's masculine breath. She didn't like her body to be tainted with any man other than Ah Xian's scent. She couldn't stand any man other than Ah Xian's scent. Yi Qing Luo's action made Ren Jianming spread his arms wide as he laughed. "Eldest young miss, be my Ren family's mistress, as long as you're willing. In this heaven realm, whatever you want, I can do it for you." The gaze which he stared at Yi Qing Luo was filled with greed towards his prey. This was Rin Jianming's real face. Yi Qing Luo met his overbearing gaze, but there wasn't any emotion on her face. "Then do you know what I want?" Gu residence, Rin family, or Lord of Heaven Realm? Rin Jianming spat out every single word, which was enough to make most cultivators go crazy. His gaze was locked onto Yi Qing Luo's face, not wanting to miss any change in her emotions. But on that young lady's exquisite face, there wasn't any hint of greed or yearning. That pair of eyes, which were as bright as stars, was filled with calmness and indifference, like nothing could arouse her interest. After Rin Jianming's words landed, the atmosphere froze for a moment. The two of them didn't speak again. After a moment of silence, a young lady's calm voice rang. "Before discussing terms with me, second young master Rin had better investigate clearly what I want." Her pink lips curled slightly, curving into ridicule and disdain. Tightly, she turned around and left. Yi Qing Luo had just taken a few steps when Ren Jianming's voice was heard from behind. "Eldest young miss, I only want you to help me save someone. As long as you're willing, whatever you want, I can give it to you." Yi Qing Luo stopped in her tracks and turned around to look at him. "Save people? If even you, second young master in, can't save someone, then I, a good-for-nothing with no Xian energy, can't even save him. Only you can." Ran Jianming's eyes were resolute as he said, "If it wasn't for the fact that I had no other choice, I wouldn't have taken the risk to find someone I don't even know." Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. The smile on her lips was very casual. "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you." I'm good at killing people, but I really don't know how to save people. With that, she left without hesitation. Rin Jianming didn't follow them. The Rin family had such a complicated relationship, and Yiqing Luo didn't want to be dragged into it to turn into a big drama. She was someone that Rin Jianming wanted to save. Must be a troublesome person. She did not hear Gu Yin use the word save when it came to the Rin family or anyone's situation. However, Ren Jianming would rather look for a stranger like her. He was also unwilling to seek help from the Rin family. TSK. Just the thought of it was troublesome. Yiqing Luo pouted her lips. She didn't want to get involved in this mess. Chapter 40, 317. Eldest young miss, why? Is second young master Rin not around today? Recently, Ren Jianming had been sticking to her eldest young miss's side shamelessly, and she couldn't chase him away. Today, he actually let eldest young miss come back alone. Could it be that the both of them had a quarrel? Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and hooked Gu Yin's shoulder as she leaned close to her and gave a naughty smile. Little Gu Yin! You seem to value second young master Rin very much. Are you disappointed that you didn't see him today? Gu Yin's body stiffened as her face revealed a shocked expression, as her facial features revealed resistance. Eldest young miss, this joke is not funny. How could I possibly value that kind of silk pants? She hurriedly explained. I just felt strange and asked out of curiosity. I absolutely have no improper thoughts towards second young master Rin. Looking at the lady's anxious and shy look, Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. She pinched Gu Yin's face and said with a smile, I'm just joking. That second young master Rin, I've already told him clearly, if there's nothing wrong with his brain, he probably won't bother me anymore. Hence, the next morning, Yiqing Luo finished washing up and followed Gu Yin to the main hall for breakfast. She saw Ren. Something wrong with his brain. Jianming. Yiqing Luo. This fellow was really a lingering spirit. What on earth was he trying to do? She seemed to have made it very clear. Yesterday, right? Still not willing to give up? Master Rin, why are you here again? Gu Yin stood in front of Yiqing Luo, guarding against Ren Jianming's approach like a wolf. Ren Jianming's eyes were burning as he stared at Yiqing Luo, as his eyes were filled with smiles. Eldest young miss is my fiancée. Why can't I come to see her? Master Rin, please conduct yourself with dignity. Gu Yun frowned slightly. Master Ren's actions and words have already affected eldest young Mississippi. Ren Jianming's gaze went past Gu Yin and fell onto Yiqing Luo. His smile was the same as the flattery and fawning over the past few days. His eyes were filled with deep affection towards Yiqing Luo. Eldest young miss, where do you want to go today? I'll accompany you. Yiqing Luo lifted her eyes slightly and met Ren Jianming's eyes. She stretched out her hand and placed it on Gu Yin's shoulder. You can leave first. Gu Yin looked at Yiqing Luo worriedly and looked at Ren Jianming vigilantly. Didn't First Mistress say yesterday that young Master Rin wouldn't bother her anymore? Something must have happened between young Master Rin and eldest miss for her to say that. But now, young Master Rin was pestering eldest miss again. Gu Yin seriously suspected that young Master Rin wanted to harm young miss. Don't worry, there's still Gui around. Yiqing Luo knew what Gu Yin was worried about as she patted her shoulder. This girl that the barbaric Blood Bone King had arranged for her. His wariness and hostility towards Ren Jianming were very strong. It was unknown just what Ren Jianming had done in the Gu residence previously. Gu Yin hesitated for a moment. Under Yiqing Luo's insistence, he left the house first. Yiqing Luo walked directly to the dining table and sat down, minding her own business as she started to eat her breakfast. He didn't even spare Rin Jianming a glance. Rin Jianming followed Yiqing Luo and sat beside her. He originally thought that Yiqing Luo would ask Gu Yin to leave to have a good talk with him, but after Gu Yin left, Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see him at all. Chapter 40, 318. Eldest young miss, I hope you can consider my suggestion last night. His tone was somewhat solemn. The expression on his face turned serious in an instant. Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyes and looked at the hand on her arm. Second young masterin, have you forgotten? Not to touch me casually? Her voice just fell. Rin Jiaming's hand suddenly felt like it was pricked by a needle. He retracted his hand abruptly. His entire palm had already turned jet black. The prickling pain of the needle spread through his palm. His hand trembled in pain, and his brows knitted tightly. Yi Qing Luo continued to eat her breakfast without any change in expression. Eldest young miss, I am serious. Rin Jiaming was panting as he spoke. He couldn't help sucking in cold air due to the piercing pain in his palm. But he still looked at Yi Qing Luo and continued, You are a pharmacist, only you. Only you can save him. No matter what Ren Jiaming said. Yi Qing Luo ate her food calmly. Until she was full and put down her chopsticks, she raised her head lightly. Second young masterin, I am a pharmacist, but that doesn't mean I can save people. Looking at the entire heaven realm, it's easy to find a high-level pharmacist with your family's power. Yes, I really don't know if you can save him. Ren Jiaming lowered his head and pursed his thin lips. But this is the only chance. Ren Jiaming suddenly stood up and fixed his eyes on Yi Qing Luo. I can't beat the grass and alert the snake. I don't trust anyone in Heaven Realm, only you. His hands slowly clenched into fists. One by one he squeezed tightly, as if he had completely ignored his poisoned right hand. You don't trust the people in Heaven Realm, but trust an outsider like me? Yi Qing Luo snorted lightly. Aren't you afraid that I am the most dangerous person? Afraid. Ren Jiaming was very honest, but I want to take a gamble. Betting on you is my only chance. Yi Qing Luo's words had just opened her mouth. Only a plop sound was heard. Rin Jiaming knelt down heavily. He knelt in front of Yi Qing Luo with an unprecedented serious expression on his face. Eldest young miss, as a sign of sincerity I can tell you some things that I can tell you. Yi Qing Luo stood up, avoiding the direction where Ren Jiaming was kneeling. Her expression was still very indifferent. Her gaze on Ren Jiaming was so indifferent that no one could tell what she was thinking. Don't tell me, I don't want to know. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand. It's just an accident that I'm here, and I don't intend to implicate too many complicated things. Rin Jiaming did not dare to look for a pharmacist in the Heaven Realm. He did not dare to spread the news of the person he had saved. That person's identity in the Heaven Realm must be very complicated. It was also very likely that it involved the entire Heaven Realm. She still had self-awareness. She knew that with her strength in the Heaven Realm, she wouldn't be able to make a big splash. Not to mention now, she who had lost her profound energy, that was under the condition of recovering profound strength. She also didn't want to cause any complicated disputes and battles in the Heaven Realm. It was too troublesome. It was also too dangerous. Yi Qing Luo answered very decisively without any hesitation. Second young masterin, you should go back. His footsteps had just stepped over the threshold. Chapter 40, 319. This low growl successfully stopped Yi Qing Luo's footsteps. She turned around and looked at Ren Jiaming. What do you mean? Half a month later, on the wind cloud list, someone will take action and invade the Heaven Realm. Ren Jiaming was still kneeling on the ground. His voice was filled with suppressed pain. Only by saving that person can heaven be saved. How did you know that there would be a calamity in the Heaven Realm? Yi Qing Luo's gaze shot straight towards Ren Jiaming, containing some sharpness. Ren Jiaming pursed his lips. As for the reason, I cannot tell you right now. However, everything I have said is the truth. The Heaven Realm has been targeted by a mysterious force. The other party will use the opportunity of the wind cloud list to create chaos for some unknown reason, the moment Rin Jianming mentioned the mysterious force. Yi Qingluo's first reaction was to think of 3 words: dark, dark palace. Only the rats from the dark palace were hiding in the dark. That was why they were always looking for opportunities to create chaos. In the Nirvana realm, it was the same in the land. Now, was the other party eyeing the heaven realm? If the mysterious force that Ran Jianming was talking about was really the Palace of Darkness, this step-by-step operation, the true goal of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, was to control the 3 realms. How ambitious! No, that's not right. If the power of the secluded Darkness Palace had already infiltrated into the heaven realm, that, with how stubborn the Palace of Gloomy Shadows was towards her, after learning of her existence, the Palace of Gloomy Darkness should have come looking for them, especially now, when she didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. However, she had been wandering in the heaven realm for half a month. He did not see any traces of the Dark Abyss Palace. Eldest young miss, even if it's not for the heaven realm, you wouldn't be willing to see the Gu residence fall, right? Seeing Yi Qingluo not speaking for a long time, Ren Jianming started to play the emotional card. To tell the truth, I really don't care if the bone residence falls or not. Yi Qingluo crossed her arms as she walked back into the room. She returned to her seat and sat down. Who is the person you want me to save? Why do you say that only by saving that person can the heaven realm be saved? She had to confirm it first. Was that mysterious force on the side of the Dark Palace? Seeing Yi Qingluo walking back and returning to her seat, Ren Jianming's face revealed an excited smile. But when he heard Yi Qingluo's question, his smile slowly froze. His expression was somewhat complicated. Yi Qingluo could tell that he was conflicted. He wanted her to save that man, but subconsciously he couldn't believe her. Yi Qingluo wasn't in a hurry to interrogate him. You want me to save someone, but you want me to not even know who I want to save? The expression on Ren Jianming's face changed slightly. He clenched his fists again, struggling internally. After some time, as though he had finally made up his mind, he abruptly raised his head and looked at Yi Qingluo, saying word by word, I hope that the person you save is... Miss Rin, young Master Rin, is here. Suddenly, a servant's voice came from outside. Miss Ren? Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes. Rin Jianying. Why was she here? Just as Rin Jianying was guided by the servants, they arrived at the room which Yi Qingluo was in. Rin Jianming, who was kneeling on the ground, moved, and in a blink of an eye, he sat on the seat opposite Yi Qingluo. The expression on his face was no longer solemn and serious, but there was a sliver of what he thought to be elegant and suave, an incomparably confident smile. His entire imposing manner became extremely relaxed. Chapter 40, 320. Rin Jianying had already walked in. Her gaze fell onto Rin Jianming. Her penetrating gaze swept past Yi Qingluo and Rin Jianming, as though she was trying to confirm something. Elder sister, why are you here? Rin Jianming stood up as his face was filled with disdain. Rin Jianying slowly walked towards him as her beautiful face revealed a hint of coldness. Jianming, have you caused enough trouble these few days? Ren Jianming pushed away Ren Jianying's hand with a mischievous look and bypassed her. What trouble did I cause? You're the second young master of the Ren family, following behind a woman all day long. Where's your sense of propriety? Ren Jianying intentionally shot a glance towards Yi Qingluo's direction as she spoke. That gaze seemed to be saying that Yi Qingluo was a femme fatale. Ren Jianming's expression sunk instantly. His tall body blocked in front of Yi Qingluo, blocking Ren Jianying's gaze. He revealed an unhappy expression. Elder sister, eldest miss is my fiancée. I like eldest miss. Don't always go against her. What fiancé? Nothing has even been decided yet. Ren Jianying sneered and continued in a resentful tone. In the entire old city, There are countless women who want to marry you. Why do you need to be so persistent with a woman who doesn't even put you in her heart? Those people are not eldest Mississippi. Ren Jiaming stubbornly raised his chin. I only want eldest miss. You. Ren Jiaming was slightly flustered as she flicked her sleeves and retreated away from Ren Jiaming. Good. Now I can't control you anymore. All right, if you want to be with this woman, then don't go back to the Ren family. Elder sister. Ren Jiaming was flustered. Since young, you've always liked to control me. Now, even if I like someone, you want to control me too. Ren Jiaming's expression was cold as she didn't have any intention of being moved. This woman isn't suitable for you. Either follow me back to the Ren family or you can live with this woman. I want to see, after losing the identity of the Ren family's second young master, if she will still allow you to pester her. Big sister, why? Why do you have to force me? Ren Jiaming was so angry that his whole body was trembling. His face was livid and his eyes were red. It was as if the emotions that had been suppressed for a long time were on the verge of exploding at this moment. He looked like a rebellious child who was being forced by his elders. Ren Jiaming's expression did not change. She looked at Ren Jiaming quietly with her beautiful eyes. There seemed to be no room for discussion. Ren Jiaming pursed his lips tightly and his eyes were red. He glared at Ren Jiaming with resentment and unwillingness, unwilling to compromise. The siblings seemed to be at loggerheads. No one was willing to be the first to speak and take half a step back. Yi Qing Luo's gaze wandered between the two of them for a moment. Her crimson lips curled up slightly. Miss Ren's desire to control her own brother is really strong. Could it be that my joke that day is really true? Miss Ren wants to marry your own brother, so you're doing everything possible to control him so that he only belongs to you? She paused and covered her mouth in surprise. She looked Ren jennying up and down in shock. I didn't expect Miss Ren to be such a person. You're so scary. Oh, your ghost. Ren Jiaming was so infuriated by Yi Qing Luo's shocking words that her expression changed. Chapter 40, 3:21. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose. Trample? Young Miss Ren, I don't like what you're saying. Yi Qing Luo slowly stood up. The red flowing cloud long dress followed her movements and fluttered like a dancing butterfly's wings. I didn't cheat him of his feelings, nor his looks. Eldest Miss Ren, where did you see me trampling on him? As she stood up, his aura started to spread out. When she spoke, her long and narrow eyes were like poppies blooming, emitting a suffocating charm. Ren Jiaming's heart tightened. The expression on his face was constantly changing. I gave you a chance. Ren Jiaming gritted her teeth. It's you who rejected to be with Jianming. Since you rejected, why not be more straightforward? Yi Qing Luo sneered. Don't you know how clingy your brother is? Ren Jiaming turned cold. Eldest miss of the Gu family, it's not your turn to interfere in our Ren family's matters. Saying that, she turned around and fixed her gaze on Ren Jiaming. Ren Jiaming, you're the pride of the Ren family, the future successor of the Ren family. I only ask you one thing. Are you coming back to the Ren family with me? Eldest sister. Ren Jiaming's face flushed red, as though the two ladies' conversation had caused all the anger he had suppressed in his heart to burst out. I don't want to be the successor of the Ren family. I don't want to be the pride of the Ren family. If I can't even choose the girl I like as the second young master of the Ren family, then what's the use of this identity? I will let you see my determination. As long as you don't accept eldest miss, I will not return to the Ren family. Ren Jiaming's every word sounded like a hysterical roar and a venting of anger. His fists were clenched tightly. The veins on the back of his hands and joints were popping out. Ren Jiaming didn't expect Ren Jiaming to suddenly explode. That exquisite and beautiful face revealed an unbelievable anger. You're going to give up everything in the Rin family for this woman. You forced me to do this. Rin Jianming's chest heaved. Good. Rin Jianying seemed to be very angry. Her face was pale, and she pointed at Rin Jianming with a trembling finger. I'd like to see if a woman like you will still want you after losing the protection of the Rin family. Her gaze turned towards Yi Qing Luo venomously. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence is really capable. His words fell. She flicked her sleeves and strode towards the door. When she reached the door, she stopped but did not turn around. A sinister voice entered their ears. Rin Jianming, you will regret this. This continued until Rin Jianying's aura completely disappeared from the Bone residence. Rin Jianming, whose emotions were tense, face flushed, and eyes bloodshot, slumped into the chair as if he had collapsed. Yi Qing Luo strolled over and raised her slender brows as she looked at him with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Now that you're not the second young master of the Rin family, what are you going to use to convince me to help you? This princess was chased out of the house because of you. Ren Jianming rubbed his face to make his expression revert back to normal. If eldest miss doesn't take me in, then I'll really be a homeless child. Because of me? Chapter 40, 3:22. Ren Jianming grabbed a teacup and poured himself a cup of tea to drink. After moistening his throat, he said, You've seen through me again? It seems like I can't hide anything from you. He straightened his face and placed both hands on the table as he looked at Yi Qing Luo solemnly. I indeed want to leave the Rin family. Yi Qing Luo used her slender fingers to caress her chin, as though she had seen through everything. Looks like the person you're really guarding against is your eldest sister. Rin Jianming's hedonistic look was obviously intentionally displayed in front of Rin Jianying. Thank you for not exposing me earlier. Ren Jianming took a deep breath. If I go back with her this time, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to leave the Ren family anymore. Yi Qing Luo asked. Ran Jianying wants the inheritance rights? She thought back to the news that Gu Yun had mentioned to her about the Rin family. The current Rin family's power holder was actually Rin Jianying. Obviously, there was a talented successor like Rin Jianming around. But the power holder was still Rin Jianying. What are you afraid of? Yi Qing Luo asked again. This was the only explanation. If it wasn't for fear, based on Rin Jianming's reputation and the legitimate Rin family's bloodline, it shouldn't be Ren Jianying's turn to make the decision. But Rin Jianming had to pretend to be a hedonistic in front of Rin Jianying and had no interest in power, only wanting to lead a befuddled life, wandering around. This was obviously to hide from Rin Jianying. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's question, Ren Jianming lowered his head and didn't reply. The expression on his face was unprecedentedly grave and solemn. In his heart, he was in a dilemma, hesitating whether to tell Yi Qing Luo everything. After a long time, his fingers clenched tightly. That hand, which was dyed black from the poison, also felt a sharp pain because of this action. He pursed his lips and tightened his grip, as though he had made the final decision. He raised his head and looked at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. Yes, I'm afraid of her. Do you still remember what I said earlier? There will be a huge calamity in the heaven realm in half a month's time? The expression on Yi Qing Luo's face was filled with a deep sense of ridicule. Surely you're not saying that. This matter has something to do with Ren Jianying? Yes. Rin Jianming was already used to Yi Qing Luo's ability to see through one's heart. He continued, I've been by your side all this time, which has aroused her suspicions. Just now she came to test me. Of course, there's another motive. It's almost time for the excellence list. She wants to trap me in the Rin family to prevent me from disrupting her plans. Yi Qing Luo's fingers touched her chin. The mysterious force you mentioned. Is it your eldest sister? No. Ren Jianming looked up. Big sister has cooperated with that mysterious force. Their goal is to rebuild a realm that belongs to her, Rin Jianying, after destroying Heaven Realm. She wanted to become the one and only ruler of the Heaven Realm. How did you know? I accidentally overheard it. If that mysterious force is really as powerful as you said and can destroy Heaven Realm, how could you not detect it when you were eavesdropping? Yi Qing Luo expressed her doubts. Rin Jianming's face turned slightly red. At that time, Big Sister was in the room with that force's representative, doing that kind of thing, so she didn't notice me. Looking at Rin Jianming's expression, she knew. Chapter 43:23. Yi Qing Luo connected everything that Rin Jianming said into a line. She crossed her arms and leaned back against the table, tilting her head to look at him. How do you prove what you said? Ren Jianming suddenly raised his head and coincidentally met with the young lady's smiling eyes. His heart inexplicably skipped a beat. When he opened his mouth to speak, his voice unconsciously stuttered. What I said is all true. I now want to beg you, don't dare to lie. Yi Qing Luo slowly lowered her body, somewhat condescending aura. Rin Jianming only felt his heart getting more and more nervous. In his eyes, the young girl's alluring and beautiful face was reflected. All of a sudden, he seemed to be startled. He stood up abruptly, avoiding eye contact with Yi Qing Luo. He held the back of the chair and quickly turned around. With his back facing Yi Qing Luo, since I was 5 years old, I discovered that eldest sister is very strange. Yi Qing Luo pulled a chair over and sat down. I was 5 years old. She was only 7 years old. But she seemed to know a lot of things that even father didn't know. In front of the elders, she appeared to be very obedient, but behind the scenes she was using another identity, secretly developing her own power. She seemed to be a natural-born businesswoman, able to grasp any business opportunities like she could predict the future. In just a few years, she had already controlled the entire Old City, and even half of the main city's trade routes in Heaven Realm. Then, when she was 14 years old, she stretched her hands to the Rin family. She was able to accurately know the internal affairs of the various large families and took precautions in advance. She also knew the secrets of the Rin family's various elders and could accurately catch all those who had ill intentions towards the Rin family. Step by step, she controlled the Rin family's lifeline and became the person behind the Rin family. Now, her target has already set the entire Heaven Realm. Speaking of this, Rin Jianming's body trembled slightly. The fingers on the back of the chair almost scratched the back of the chair. He suddenly turned around. A trace of madness flashed in his eyes. Eldest Miss, do you think my eldest sister has the ability to predict the future? Only with foresight could Rin Jianying advance step by step and reach her current position. Otherwise, Rin Jianming wouldn't be able to understand. How on earth did Rin Jianying manage to take the most appropriate precautions every time an incident happened? Foresight? I'm afraid not. Yi Qing Luo touched her pink lips with interest. What is that? Ren Jianming asked anxiously. Yi Qing Luo didn't reply, but instead her lips curled into an arc as she retorted with a question. When did you start to conceal your true thoughts? From when I was 8 years old. Rin Jianming's eyes darkened. I saw with my own eyes when she was only 10 years old. She killed her uncle because he rejected her proposal. Children of their birth. Compared to other children, he matured much earlier. From a young age, they would accept the lifestyle of a large family. From then on, Rin Jianming knew it. He was extremely talented. He was appointed as the successor of the Rin family. One day he would become a stepping stone for his elder sister. Therefore, he began to learn how to disguise himself. He began to befriend a bunch of scoundrels and turned himself into a man of luxury. Chapter 43:24. He had successfully molded himself into a hedonistic son of a rich family. and successfully numbed Ren Jianying. From then onwards, Ren Jianying's attitude towards him was obviously different. Ren Jianying no longer looked at him coldly. It was no longer directed at him, but she really treated him like a younger brother and doted on him. But this kind of doting was established in another way. Ren Jianying was using her own way to condone his misdeeds, suppressing all the protesting voices in the family. She allowed him to completely ruin her reputation. Then, as a good sister, she came forward to clean up the mess. Later on, the entire old city knew about it. There was a little overlord in the Rin family, a genius overlord, except for those scoundrel friends of his. Everyone who saw his appearance would avoid him with a headache, not willing to have any interaction with him. Speaking of this, Ren Jianying's body started to tremble slightly. He shut his eyes tightly, suppressing all the emotions in his heart. Finally, he opened his eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo with a resolute gaze. "Eldest Miss, I really hope you can help me. Help the Ren family help." Heaven Realm. Yiqing Luo turned her head. Her expression was indifferent. "I don't have that ability." "Save him. As long as he wakes up, he will definitely be able to control eldest sister." Ren Jianying clenched his fists tightly. His tone was filled with unwavering determination. If you really can't save him, it's all right. At least we have tried. I will consider it." Yiqing Luo straightened her body and smiled slightly. "Since you have left the Rin family, then stay in the Gu residence." Ren Jianying's eyes suddenly lit up. Let him stay. Did that mean that she had already relented? She would help. He couldn't hide the excitement on his face. His eyes were fixated on the young lady's gorgeous face, looking at the smile on the young lady's lips. His lips uncontrollably curled upwards. He hadn't had time to express his gratitude and touched. Yiqing Luo looked at the door and raised her voice. "Gu Yan!" Gu Yun quickly walked in. When she saw Ren Jianying, she stared at him in disgust. "Arrange a guest room for second young master in. He will be staying here for a period of time," Yiqing Luo instructed. Gu Yunmiao was stunned and her eyes widened. "Eldest Miss, you let this hedonistic son live in the Gu residence? Didn't First Mistress say yesterday that she had made things clear with second young master in and that they would never see each other again? Today it had developed into, were they going to live together? The First Miss actually agreed to live under the same roof as the playboy. Was eldest Miss deceived? Countless thoughts flashed through Gu Yan's mind. Yiqing Luo poked her head. "What nonsense are you thinking about?" "Was just being kind, seeing that he was homeless. I took him in for a few days." Gu Yan looked at Ren Jianying with a vigilant expression. "Eldest Miss, that kind of hedonistic playboy is the most scheming. Don't be fooled by him." Yiqing Luo seemed to have smelled something important as a trace of ridicule surfaced in her eyes. She suddenly stretched out her hand and circled it around Gu Yan's neck. She lowered her voice and moved closer to Gu Yan's ear as she laughed softly. "Little Yin, don't tell me you've been cheated by him?" Gu Yan's face flushed red in an instant. "I didn't. How could I possibly be cheated by a hedonistic playboy? I'm worried about you." His negative tone sounded like he was full of energy, but that flushed red face. Chapter 43:25. No wonder every time Guyan saw Ren Jianying, she would have that expression. "All right, be good. Now he needs my help. He won't dare to lie to you." Yiqing Luo rubbed Gu Yan's head. Gu Yan pursed her lips and stared fiercely at Ren Jianying. "Let's go. I'll bring you over." Ren Jianying didn't hear the whispers between the two. Hearing Gu Yan's shout, he then reacted. He hurriedly walked to Gu Yan's side. Just as he was about to leave with Gu Yan, he suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked at Yiqing Luo solemnly. "Eldest young miss, thank you." Yiqing Luo curled her lips at him as she casually waved her hand. Rin Jiaming wanted to say something, but Gu Yun tugged at him. Are you leaving or not? Rin Jiaming touched his nose as he leaned forward and put his head in front of Gu Yun. I say, little lass, why are you so hostile towards me? Gu Yun was startled by the sudden appearance of a head and took 2 steps back. After her gaze fell onto Rin Jiaming's face, her eyes flickered for a moment. Immediately, she pursed her lips. I don't dare! How don't you dare? I think you're very daring. Rin Jiaming didn't have the intention to let her off as he followed behind her and asked, How did I provoke you? Quickly, tell me. Their voices gradually got further away. Yi Qing Luo leaned against the table and stood for a while before walking out of the main door. Her mind kept repeating those words that Rin Jiaming said. Everything was strung together. Towards Rin Jiaming's words. She already believed half of it. After all, Rin Jiaming had no need to lie to her about such things. That person that Rin Jiaming mentioned, the only person who could stop Rin Jiaming, the person who needed her to save, who was it? She was getting more and more curious. You really want to agree to help him? Qi Yan drilled in from the window, fluttered his wings, and landed into Yi Qing Luo's arms. Yi Qing Luo lowered her head and met Qi Yan's eyes. You don't want me to help him? This sacred beast doesn't like him at all. Qi Yan snorted. The way he looks at you is extremely disgusting. Speaking of this, Red Flame seemed a little awkward. His little body squirmed a few times in her arms. Only then did he raise his chin up high. With an arrogant look, he said, as one of the 4 great heavenly clans of the Heaven Realm, the Ren clan is too complicated. If you were to interfere, you would definitely not be able to leave in a short period of time. Furthermore, you would attract a lot of trouble. After saying that, he probably felt that his words seemed to be overly worried about Yi Qing Luo. He then added, This holy beast is not concerned about you. This holy beast only feels that you're a good-for-nothing now. If you cause a lot of trouble, in the end, I'll be the one to clean up the mess. Listening to the little fellow's tsundere words, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laughed as her slender fingers tapped on its little head. I might not agree to help him. I need to ascertain if that mysterious powerhouse, the powerhouse which Ren Jiaming is working with, is related to the secluded palace. Qi Yan's red eyes turned. Then what if it's really related to the Palace of Darkness? Yi Qing Luo pondered for a moment. Then we can only choose to intervene. Of course, I have to destroy the Palace of Darkness. Most importantly, if the other party was really the Palace of Darkness, the other party might not let her off so easily. Chapter 43:26. Hey! Qi Yan stared at her. Do you know what you're saying or not? Based on your current situation, you'll die before you even reach secluded palace. Yi Qing Luo propped Qi Yan up and placed him next to her as she smiled. Are you concerned about me? Qi Yan's little wings moved as his little head turned unconsciously, not looking into Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Following that, he gave an imposing harumph. This sacred beast doesn't care about you. This sacred beast is only worried that you're dead. This sacred beast has even signed a contract with you. Looking at this little fellow's stubborn look, the smile in Yi Qing Luo's eyes deepened. She rubbed Qi Yan's head hard. Don't worry, I'm not an idiot. Why would I risk my life? She put down Qi Yan, and the expression on her face became extremely gentle. I'm no longer alone. I'm shouldering so many people's hopes. How could I possibly let myself fall? She still needed to return to Xian's side alive. She still needed to live and reunite with her brothers in the world group. How could she bear to mess around? Qi Yan stared blankly at Yi Qing Luo's gentle face as his red eyes blinked. After some time, he turned his head away arrogantly as he gave a soft harumph. You know your limits. This sacred beast doesn't want Master to die so quickly. Yi Qing Luo. Couldn't he say something more auspicious? The following days, Rin Jiaming stayed in the Gu residence without any psychological burden. Moreover, he stayed in a natural and casual manner. And Rin Jiaming wanted to put on a good show, plus he pestered Yi Qing Luo to agree to his request. Rin Jiaming seemed to be sticking to Yi Qing Luo's side except at night. Initially, Gu Yi sensed that there were Rin family spies circling around the Gu residence. Yi Qing Luo made Gu Yi pretend not to have discovered anything. Rin family's spies observed for 2 days. They saw Rin Jiaming sticking to Yi Qing Luo all the time, going in and out together. He was thrown out of the courtyard by Yi Qing Luo several times. Those spies then retreated. But Rin Jiaming didn't let his guard down because of this, because the enemy he was facing wasn't anyone else. Instead, it was his only elder sister, who shared the same father and mother, the closest bloodline to him, and who had the ability to foresee. Lin Quibble, Yi Qing Luo had asked Gu Yin to secretly investigate some of the Rin family secrets. He was also investigating whether or not there was any aura from the dark Nether Palace in the old city. As long as the Palace of Gloomy Darkness came, there would definitely be some clues left behind. Just like that, another 3 days passed. There were only 10 days left before the opening of the Excellence list. Rin Jiaming became more anxious the closer it was to the ranking list. This meant that danger was about to descend. He increased the speed, urging Yi Qing Luo to save him. After being harassed for an entire day, Yi Qing Luo's ears were about to grow calluses, so she directly asked Gu Yi to throw him out. The second time, Yi Qing Luo really didn't see Rin Jiaming at all. After being pestered for several days, Yi Qing Luo was still not used to it, until she finished her breakfast. Rin Jiaming was nowhere to be seen. When did Rin Jiaming become so obedient? Did he change his personality? With Rin Jiaming's personality, he wouldn't listen so easily, right? Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something as her expression congealed. She suddenly stood up. Gu Yin, why didn't Rin Jiaming come over today?